Talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound.
Yes. Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning, Eric. How are you? Why are you whispering?
But you really must tell us about these traditions.
I don't know what you speak of.
Because I was reading somewhere that, there are New Year traditions that people have. And there's certain parts of the continent where, to ensure that the year begins well, one of the things that they do, there's a tradition and there's a way in which you swallow bones.
Others swallow frogs.
Others swallow... Nice. You are a man who understands things.
All right. Ndu, how are you?
I am fine.
Good to see you and good to have you back.
Good to be seen. How are you doing?
Very well.
Super
Very
duper.
well. Better than yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we missed you.
Oh, that does things.
Don't do this to us again.
I will not.
Okay.
Yesterday's proverb. If you no.
Don't swallow.
It was something to do with marriage. No, it wasn't for marriage. Yesterday was about love. Man, you should have been here. Hey, yesterday's proverb.
Did it have you feeling a certain type of way?
Yeah. It was one of those
Eric became
lyrics.
poetic.
Eric became poetic.
Yes.
On the day that I
Lyrics.
was not, I don't understand. Why do you wait?
I don't know. Don't wait for
the
love
lady.
to come. So you go for it.
Go for it.
Let your love be like misty rain,
Oh, my
coming
daddy.
softly, but flooding the river.
Sheesh.
Unaonaje?
Eric, just say poetry. Right. What I now know, apart from being a diehard romantic, Eric is a man who has hidden talents in poetry. Yes.
He enjoys this type of thing.
He loves this type of thing. Enjoying, liking, loving, very different things. Him, he loves this sort of thing.
So, now we know.
Yeah.
The new year is revealing quite a number of things.
Well, yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody, and we're glad that you're tuned in this morning. 3 minutes coming up to 4 minutes after 6. This Wednesday, the 6th day of the 21st year of this 21st century.
Okay.
We have a lot to discuss today. So, clinical officers, so doctors meet with the government, they have negotiations, they agree, they go back to work. Clinical officers meet with the national government, they have talks, they agree, they sign on the dotted line, they say they're going back to work. Governors meet. Wait.
What's going
These
on
guys
here?
were meeting. Were not part of that meeting. So what did they discuss? No. So governors have basically said, we are not party to this deal. And so they have written to the national government and told them, you guys, you negotiated. But you're the ones who are expected to pay. We can't. So now there's a fresh standoff, and clinical officers are threatening to go back on strike tomorrow. So we'll have that conversation today. What exactly is happening? And today we'll be speaking to the governor who's in charge of that committee that looks at human resource and labor issues. And this is the Kisii governor, James Ongwae. And then we'll also be speaking to our friend Peterson, who is the chairman of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. Hiya. That is one conversation. There's a lot of other things that's happening. There's siasa hapa na pale. There's schools reopening hapa na pale. There's a broke government hapa na pale. There's all these things. Yeah, all those. We'll have a conversation about that. But let's begin. like we always do, by looking at this country that is not on lockdown, and then we look at other countries that are on lockdown and what's happening in terms of COVID-19.
Sure, let's look at the numbers around the world, right? 86,832,274 cases of COVID-19 in the world, with 1.875 million deaths so far. Let's look at some of these countries that are on lockdown right now and what they are suffering. The UK on lockdown to the 10th of March, at least to try to curb the spread of the second strain of COVID-19. With now 2,774,479 cases of COVID. Now, let's look at what happened just yesterday. Now, you can imagine that they're on lockdown and the number of cases that they are finding every day is rising steadily. 60,960 new cases reported yesterday, 830 new deaths in the United Kingdom, and they are on lockdown. Okay? And the vaccine also, we know that has been rolled out, but this is being administered to a healthy population. And it was interesting. We saw on a piece of news yesterday that they're not administering the vaccine to patients who are currently unwell. And that was one misconception that people had before, that even if you are currently ill with COVID, you can get the vaccine. They're not doing this. Those who are ill with COVID, they're waiting until they heal, and then there is a 2-week time frame that's given, then they can be administered the vaccine. So it seemed to have been a blow to a number of people. And something that CT had mentioned on Monday actually, was that, everybody, not everybody, but there are a number of people who believe this vaccine is treatment for COVID. It really is not. And for those who are ill, they thought, well, okay, the vaccine is here at the time when we are sick. We're going to get this vaccine and get better. Not the case. They're not even administering to those who are unwell and waiting for at least 2 weeks after recovery then to be able to get the vaccine. So that was an interesting piece of information that we saw coming out yesterday. The United States now recording 21,578,606 COVID cases around the world, with unfortunately 365,620 deaths. Yesterday, the US recorded across the continental United States 225,558 new cases and 3,499 new deaths. Definitely one of the highest numbers that they've gotten in a very long time.
These high numbers are many.
They're very many.
Every once in a while, this is the highest number that they've got.
But look at it.
You give it time, this is the highest
Yeah, and
number.
it keeps
Meaning
getting higher
it
and
keeps getting
higher.
higher and higher and higher.
Exactly. The US,
Which means more and more people are dying.
yes. And now they're getting to a point, they had seen it before where you say, okay, when you see some of the major hospitals in the US, Johns Hopkins, Cedars-Sinai, being full, and they are full to capacity, not being able to take anybody else. Now, this is the scenario that is being painted across the US, from state to state to state, to say that we don't know if we're going to be able to take in much more. And these are people who are presenting with symptoms. It's not just somebody who's showing up and saying I lost my sense of taste, or I lost my sense of smell. These are people who are either in need of oxygen or suffering from symptoms that will not allow them to stay at home and need some kind of medical care. So Joe Biden is itching to get into the White House to be able to set some things in motion as concerns COVID.
Has he indicated what he wants to do? Like first 30 days in office. In fact, this is COVID, so first 30 days in office.
He's actually
What
talked
does he
about,
want to do?
He's actually talked about the first 100 days. And with COVID, he has said, number one, make it mandatory for everybody to wear a mask. One of the other things that he did talk about was be very clear about what would be considered essential and non-essential in terms of movement, and then putting in place measures whereby there's never been a lockdown situation in the United States ever since COVID came around. And so, of course, he said that he knows it's going to be a fight, the push and pull between people's liberties and what they want to do as an administration to make sure COVID doesn't spread.
Okay, so what does he want? Does he want to put up to institute some lockdowns?
He does.
Has he said that explicitly?
Well, he says that he's shrouded it in politically correct speak to say that we're going to have to do things that would restrict movement and see the spread of COVID come down considerably. This is what he has said. So those are
It'll be interesting to see actually what he is actually able to pull through in those first 100 days, that's really going to put a halt to the spread of COVID-19.
Sure.
In terms of like, okay, so you see the UK Prime Minister just wakes up and makes an announcement and says, okay, guys, it's going to be tough, but stay indoors. Germany, the same. Italy, the same. In the US, wake up and say, stay indoors.
Unfortunately, it will be very difficult because there has never been anything like this. And I think one of the things that he's very intent on is paying attention to COVID. It hasn't really been paid attention to. And in him setting up this task force, for example, where he has the likes of Fauci and others on this task force, is that he's saying, let's pay attention to this thing and see what we actually can do. And that's what they've said, that attention has not been given to it like that. Whereas you have 52 mini Americas because of the federal system. Everybody can basically do what they want, but they said there has to be a concerted effort in fighting this thing, which has, it will be very, very difficult to wake up one day and say, do this, because it has not been done historically over the last, 12 months. It'll be difficult, but he's determined. So.
And to see also the kind of support then that the federal state would give to the states, actually, if in terms of distribution of the COVID vaccine, in terms of getting the healthcare workers the necessary PPEs and all the protection that they require, getting all the support that they need in terms of money so that they can together fight COVID. Because that's one of the things that the other governors were, saying. So what's coming from Washington and what's coming to us. Let's see. Those 100 days will be a serious proper test on the resolve of the new administration in the US.
Sure.
It's not as though they have much choice.
No.
Because even just from a purely administrative point of view, you can't run away from the reality of the damaging effects of COVID in that country. You can't. And if you then have this opportunity to be president, you really want to show that you're different. And one of the things you're going to do, the thing which stands out, COVID is killing people, it's alarming, it's shocking, it's disturbing. It's the one thing you're going to have to give your attention more than anything else. But if you want to understand how this is playing out, and against the background of what Trump is still doing or trying to do, is the movement of parts of the states where there is need to elect senators, some need to elect Congress people, or within the Senate itself, or within Congress itself, there's a lot of movement. But even what is significant is that even people who are staunch, dumb Republicans, you find movement. Not to the side of the Democrats, but movement to the side of reason and logic of what they think would be best for their people. So people aren't functioning along party lines when it comes up with these things.
No.
Now, against the background of these changes, the president will not have the sort of resistance that someone is likely to have simply because they belong to a different party. Yes, if his policies resonate with the idea that it's going to be useful to the American people, he will get support.
Very interesting to see what that. Let's look at Kenya briefly before we have to take that break. We're looking at now 219 new cases in Kenya as of yesterday, 4 new deaths, unfortunately. Takes Kenya's numbers now to 97,127, 1,690 deaths in the country. And, we're still, looking at how to keep fighting this. There's not really much talk right now about continued testing or seeing what it looks like around the country. But COVID is still here with us. I think here now we are really dealing with the after effects of, or the effects away from the medical effects of COVID. We're now looking at the effects that it has on different parts of society, economically, infrastructure-wise, job-wise, and things like that.
Yeah. Starting a new year and with a broke government, starting a new year with schools reopening, and that is, putting in a dent on the financial status of very many parents and the government itself. So, hey, there's a lot that's happening at the beginning of this year. Good morning. It's 6:15. This is Kenya's Biggest Conversation. Brian Amulioto, our social media producer, is here. And so our live stream is up, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can log in and say hello to us, and we'll be saying hello to you shortly before we look at the proverb for the day and the headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Spice FM, Malindi.
All right, let's look at what these skies look like today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 16 degrees is what we're looking at the moment. So good highs of 26 today. That'll also be the high in Nakuru. It's clear at 14 at the moment. Partly cloudy in Nyeri at 12, highs of 24 and lows of 10. 11 degrees and mostly clear in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 11. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 22, got highs of 27 and lows of 19. 14 will be the low, which is currently the condition in Kakamega. Clear conditions, going to a warm high of 30. And we're seeing highs of 31 in Mombasa, 24 and mostly clear at the moment. And it's raining lightly in Malindi at 17 degrees. 16 will be the low, highs of 28. Mostly clear conditions in Kampala this morning, stepping out of Kenya at 22. We've got highs of 26 and lows of 19, I beg your pardon. 26 will be the low in Dar es Salaam today. It's raining this morning at 27. We'll go to highs of 31 when the rain stops. And clear conditions in Johannesburg at 19 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's raining in Lagos at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 24. And it's clear in Kinshasa this morning. 23, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Looking at a bitterly cold morning in Beijing. Actually, now it's going towards afternoon. Minus 11 at the moment and mostly sunny. It's going to go to a low of minus 19 today. And it'll get as warm as minus 8. 3 degrees and cloudy conditions in Paris. Highs of 4 and lows of 1. And we're looking at 4 degrees in London as well. 5 the high and lows of 1. And we take a look at New York where it's still into Tuesday night at 4 degrees. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 6 and lows of 1.
To Beijing is sunny at minus 11.
The sun is out, doesn't mean it's warm.
It's a cold sun. Hey. Right.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
All right.
done
18
right.
minutes and 6.
94.
How are you doing wherever you are? Good morning to you. Who is online this morning?
Okay, everybody's up this morning. JF Kennedy Ouma says good morning. And something else. But he's here. Alex Bogo is tuned in from Nyeri this morning and says good morning. Ainley Steve, good morning. Looking forward to a great show from Mombasa in Nyali specifically. Good morning. And Harold says, every man in love is a poet. Eric and CT.
Right.
Yeah. Siaga says good morning. Master Dan also says good morning. And also Lisa Vanessa tuned in as usual. Dagio Guta says good morning to Eric and CT. Ready for the big conversation today. And he's tuning from your Bologna catch. Lillian Kausa Prosper says good morning, as does Frederick Bunde. Lillian says my first time to catch up on the live show. Well, karibu sana.
Welcome, Lillian.
Welcome to you.
With us, you shall prosper.
Well done. Waterman Jeffrey is tuned in from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the US and says, good morning, guys. Charity Minor tuned in from Nakuru, as is Bade Ashley in Machakos. Spiced in Karatina is Mike Kiburu. And Abraham Lucorito is tuned in.
All right.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay. Drive our train.
Hey, where's Shurage? Shurage is either not on the train or is not awake.
Hiya.
But Faristo Muganda is awake and he's in Mumuyas,
Uh-huh.
as is Sir Haran Wafula. Good morning, sir. Tuned in from Kisumu.
Okay. CT, what is today's proverb?
Right. You know who loves you.
That's the end of the proverb. No way.
No, I thought a little poetic silence would do that. It's actually considered dramatic pause, but I'm calling it silence. And why the dramatic pause is because I flip-flopped on this one. I wrong-read it. So let me start again. Yes.
Okay.
So I threw a little drama just to get myself composed. Let me start again. Okay.
I was quite liking the other one.
You know who you love,
Oh, okay.
but you can't know who loves you.
You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. Okay.
Yeah.
Can only guess.
Well.
And they can just keep telling you. And be like,
That they tell you they love you doesn't
mean that
love
they
you.
actually do love
It
you.
just means that they've told you.
Just means that they've told
Yep, that's what it means.
You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you.
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the headlines.
My goodness. There's so much going on today, isn't there?
Ruto is back in the headlines.
Okay. Let's look at the front page of the Standard. First page there. I don't even know where to start. Okay, second day of chaos as state locks out media from schools. It's one headline. Access denied. Confusion spills over into the second day of reopening as government bans journalists from school and industry protests. Amid industry protests, I beg your pardon. Okay, so this is a story on page 8, 10 and 12. Parents may never know whether schools are strictly implementing the COVID-19 protocols after the government banned media visits to the institutions. Donors and well-wishers who may want to support needy schools in various ways, including supply of masks, erection of hand-washing points, and expansion of classrooms, may not have the true picture of the needy cases because of the ban. The result is that parents and guardians, especially those with children in boarding schools, may not know of cases where institutions relax COVID-19 containment measures. The Standard established that the decision to ban media from schools was made during a high-level stakeholders meeting on Sunday, chaired by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. Cabinet Secretaries George Makoha, Education, Joe Misheru, ICT, Mutahi Kagwe, Health, and James Macharia, Transport, attended the meeting and spelled out elaborate school reopening measures. Council of Governors, COG representatives, Chief Administrative Secretaries, Principal Secretaries, senior government officials, and representatives of public and private schools also attended the meeting. A day after schools opened, the government kicked off reinforcement of the ban, with teachers warned to keep journalists at bay.
Why?
This is the question. Why?
You know, when I read this story, there's a part of me that's looking at it and thinking dramatic much in terms of the reporting of the story. It is possible that, you know, what you're discussing here is restrict access or even movement into institutions of learning for various reasons. Number one, you restrict. You've just read it. You've just read that text. A text message from top government officers and widely circulated to all regional and county directors instructed them against allowing journalists in schools.
Right.
And it says, watching news and seeing that the media have unfettered access to schools is worrying. Regional and county directors of education warn school heads that the media should not access school unless with authority.
Well, if you want to look at it from the other side as well, I mean, even if it's bordering on conspiracy, some of the pictures that we actually have seen. There's one famous, the picture that went viral yesterday of a little boy who was basically sitting in the grass under the structure. And it could be that the government doesn't want Kenyans to see the sorry state that some schools are in, that students are learning under.
You know,
it could be that. Look,
you
it
don't
could
really
be that.
need to be inside the school if you want to see that, or if you want to take pictures. It's not that. But consider that with COVID restrictions, one of the things that I think would come to the fore, if you are not part and parcel of that school fraternity,
You shouldn't be in there.
no.
And also, remember, kids have just come back to school, okay? After 1 year being away. And then here you are constantly getting in and you're finding these cameras. They're not used to this. Cameras and
Clicking
clicking
away.
and mics being shoved in their faces. I mean, teachers are trying to get them into this mindset and the mood of learning. And then here is some disruption happening. Pictures. Wear your mask.
Give us your experience.
Sit like this. Or let me see you from this angle. Come on.
It's a bit uncomfortable. Eric Odwar, who's the KUJ Secretary General, rather, Kenya Union of Journalists, says the media has exposed the sorry state and lack of proper preparations in our schools.
Yeah.
Something the government is not comfortable with.
And that did not need to happen during this time. It could still happen. We could still tell the stories.
Look, students leave school, go home. Parents take children to school, go home.
Yeah.
If the story is what you want,
you could find it
you
elsewhere.
do not actually need to be in the school to get the story.
It doesn't really stop the storytelling.
No.
And then there's students who are going to be sitting their exams in about 2.5 months, right? Candidate classes. They'll be sitting their exam in March. So this disruption needs to somehow be contained. There's need to do this. So I'm looking at it from both angles. Yes, it could be that conspiratorial side where the government is trying to, put blockades in access to information. But at the same time, maybe it's just about looking at the best interest of the learners.
Very true indeed. Very true indeed.
Yeah. The CS says 13 million learners have already reported to schools.
Yeah.
The ministry, this means that 15 million children in public and private schools, 13.5 million have so far reported. Basic Education PS Dr. Belio Kipsang says data collected across the country shows that most learners have returned to school. He, however, says the data from boarding schools is still low because most institutions issued varied reporting dates for different classes. That is expected because of boarding and people coming in and them setting up the nini. There's the issue that the government had already said that, and the education CS has said this many times. Those that are not in school, we are going to go to them and we're going to urge them to go to school. You know what that means?
It's gone a little further than that now.
Yeah, it's basically make sure that every learner goes back to school. I think sometimes it's important for government to do this. This is the right to education is the child's right.
Yeah.
It's not the parent's right to take a child to school. It's a child's right. One of the reasons why maybe a child is not going is because it could be very many things. It could also be, we have seen dropouts because of early marriages, dropouts because of kids now getting into jobs. So you have to find out why exactly are these children not going to school.
Well, it's gone a little bit further than that, Eric. Just because in another story that's recorded, I think on both the Standard and the Nation, is that parents now risk arrest over learners who are still at home.
Yeah.
Chiefs, elders, and members of the Nyumba Kumi are moving from door to door, hunting for children who are yet to report back. Parents staying home with school children, including girls who gave birth, as you've talked about, risk arrest as the government goes all out to have all learners in school by the end of the week. Fearing mass dropouts, the Ministries of Education, Devolution and Interior are working with county governments to ensure all children resume school as directed by President Kenyatta on Jamhuri Day. So in a circular from the Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang sent to regional, county and sub-county directors of education, the officials were instructed to work closely with regional coordinators, county commissioners, deputy county commissioners, chiefs and their assistants to ensure, quote-unquote, children who fail to report to school are immediately traced and brought back to school. And again, CS Magoha has warned teachers against sending home learners for non-payment of fees. Don't do it, he says. Irungu Macharia said that parents who won't send their children to school or men who impregnated or married schoolgirls will be arrested and prosecuted.
The soup and mop-ups of students going back to school is not new, especially remember when the government implemented that policy of 100% transition from primary to secondary. Yeah. That happened. Yeah. There was a whole issue of security agencies and Nyumba Kumi and chiefs and all going to every home and asking. So this child finished standard 8. They're supposed to be going to Form 1. Go. The conversation about school fees, though, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to the boards of management, to the school heads, to the school community because, so...
Across private and public schools.
Yep. Bring the children to school and don't send them home.
Because they don't have fees. Have a conversation. Well, it'll be interesting to see how this
that thing is a little more complicated than it sounds.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of those honest catch-22 situations that fees is necessary for schools to run, yet the fees isn't there. parents don't have the ability, the school cannot run as it should without the money. It's one of these situations where, but this is my thinking. The government is broke, that we know. That there's going to be confusion in schools simply because of everything else, that is also a fact. It's been highlighted once, it doesn't have to be highlighted every day. The times in which we are in is where we collectively put our heads together and say, okay, given this dire situation we are in, what do we then do to ensure that schools run smoothly and that the learner takes priority in our thoughts and minds, and that everything that is done so that this learner and those who bring about the learning process for them, their teachers, have an environment in which they can actually do what they're supposed to do well. That, to me, would be the focus. Government, this government, that government, the other, that is already done, dusted. We know.
It's done.
Okay? So let's stop flogging this dead horse.
It's that situation whereby you're saying, okay, being thrown into the deep end. Look, everybody's in the deep end. Now, it's about either one, staying afloat or swimming. So the way in which it's going to be done is what should be focused on. Now, how is it going to be done and be done properly? It's not a matter of can we peel back and say, can we go back on a decision that has already been made? That is not going to happen. In this case, it's not going to happen. How then do we swim?
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think this is a question that is asked to each individual school and each individual area where the school is actually nestled. What do you do? These are your circumstances, this is where you live, and these are the parents. This is, if there's a time where that Harambee spirit needs to come in, it's now.
This is it.
Yes, because it's what is necessary. These children have to learn. We have COVID. People don't have money. These are realities. However,
we don't even have schools.
Yes.
Our school has been submerged, let's say, in a certain area.
Precisely. So the story of this, the government could have built schools. They didn't. So leave that alone.
It's not going to happen now either.
It didn't happen. Okay?
We need more classrooms.
Running water in most schools, it's not there. So given where we are, what are the next steps that we must follow to ensure that priority is given to those within that learning environment, the learners and their teachers? What do we then do?
Calls for local leadership.
Yes.
Just community leadership. Have proper, strong community leadership, then you'll see communities being steered into certain directions. 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take another break and see what's happening on the roads, see whether the trains are actually working, whether Shurage made it or not. And then we'll continue looking at other headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
All right, let's take a look at where traffic is building up this morning. A little bit around Mombasa Road. It's not too bad. In the last couple of days, it's not been too terrible. It's going to build up a little bit right around the SGR, then towards Cabanas, because that construction has taken place, and it's still continuing to make the roads a little bit narrower because of what we are seeing. Same thing also inbound on Mombasa Road, right around Airtel, then moving out towards General Motors. So in and out, we're going to have some holdups this morning because of that construction. Getting out then towards the CBD from Mombasa Road right now. Hulu Highway is looking good, not too much of an issue. Coming down from Bagadi Way, joining the Aerodrome and then heading out into the CBD also is flowing very smoothly. Coming out of Westlands at the moment, not looking too bad. Coming then towards the CBD from Thika Road, around Pangani. That is where we do have a hold up of traffic. It's moving slowly, not yet bumper to bumper just yet, but it's probably going to get there in a short while. All right, we're going to take a look in a bit at how that may have changed as the minutes tick by. But right now, not too terrible in terms of traffic. Probably going to get to bumper proportions in some parts. Talk to us, however, if you get stuck somewhere. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text 4015 40127.
Spice up your life.
24/7. Other headlines. Lobby seeks to stop BBI's reggae. Muslim lobby group has launched a surprise court bid to block the IEBC from verifying signatures collected in support of the Building Bridges initiative. And this is on page 4 of the Standard this morning. So the Muslim for Human Rights, Muhuri, said IEBC cannot verify signatures due to lack of guidelines on the process. According to their chairman, Khalef Khalifa, the IEBC lacks specimen signatures of all registered voters and only maintains their biographic and biometric data. In the case filed before the High Court, Muhuri has named IEBC, the Speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly, as the respondents, and they want the court to stop the ongoing verification of signatures. So we know that signatures, 4 million or so, were taken to the IEBC for verification. We know that IEBC received the money that it wanted. It's already kicked off this verification exercise. And now the questions comes on the interpretation of the law. When you say that you are verifying whether these are voters, what are you using to verify whether these are voters? If the list that is presented to you says there is Eric Latif who has signed a signature, but also remember the information that was there was this is your polling center and this is your constituency, ward, constituency, county. So how do you actually tell that this is actually Eric Latif? There's ID, there's all these details, and then they've put in some signature there. Does the law say that you should verify that this is somebody's signature? Or is it that this information actually corresponds to what we have in our data, in our database, that there's actually somebody called Eric Latif who votes in this particular polling center and who belongs to this ward and this constituency and this county? And that this ID number corresponds with what we have.
You know, when we had problems with the biometric system, you would revert back to the manual system.
The black book.
Yes, and it's an IEBC book. There are ones who have that book. That book has your picture. That book has your signature. That book has your ID number.
Yep.
Now, the question I would ask is new voters.
I think the book does not have a signature.
Oh, it did. Maybe you looked at a different book. Or maybe we could ask the IEBC people.
The black book.
That book, it had your picture, it had your ID number, it had your signature.
Fingerprint.
Where do you vote?
In Nairobi. Not in Nairobi, in Machakos County.
No. You may probably be right, because on this matter, my memory may be failing me. But if I remember, when I was verifying whether I was supposed to vote at the center, I voted.
You signed.
I remember. But my memory could be faulty. It's a long time ago.
Okay.
And Eric may very well be right.
Actually, I also don't completely remember, because when you're going to register on the biometric, remember the voter identification document.
That one requires a thumbprint.
You put in your thumbprint,
yes,
and they took your picture,
yes,
and they scanned your ID.
Yes, they
right?
did. Yes, they
now,
did.
whether you are actually going to sign on that document,
I don't remember signing, but my
so
ID,
that means
my ID has my signature.
Yes, but when that's just a scan of your signature on another document.
It's like a snapshot.
It's like a snapshot.
Yes.
So does the IEBC actually have a database of signatures? That's the question.
Let me ask the question: who actually has a database of our signatures?
Yeah.
The people who have
Are
our
they
signatures
required?
are our banks.
Sure, but if you're going to do verification of signatures, then you must have a specimen.
Very true.
So the question is, does the law actually require IEBC to verify signatures, or does it require the IEBC to verify that you are a registered
voter?
Yeah.
I would suspect it requires you to be verified as a registered voter.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what I think. I think.
So the verification exercise is where the way it's been reported many times is it's signature verification exercise.
Yeah.
It's bringing that question.
But is it a really... I don't remember them asking for my signature.
Yeah.
No.
You don't.
It's ID. I was asked to produce the ID.
And then your biometrics.
Yes.
Which is
that is what
your fingerprints.
Mm.
So if for example now they go and see the person who has filled out here this is the name, this is the ID number. So do we check? Do we have this ID number from this particular polling center in our database? Yes, we do.
What is interesting, again, like all processes in Kenya that are challenged in court, it opens the discussion up so that you actually get to understand.
It's a learning process.
Yes, what the law actually says about this.
Well, if anything, one thing's for sure now, that there's no place, or at least unverified, that specimens of Kenyans and their signatures can be found.
Yeah.
But I thought this new system that
because
we were
even with
putting
the Huduma number, we did not sign.
You didn't, eh?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay. But I thought Huduma number was supposed to unify all these things.
Yeah, but not your signature. It's your biometrics.
Or if it's biometric, then it is assumed that, when you amalgam all these things together, it means the information that banks have, they will also have.
Yep. They have your PIN number, your ID number, they have your fingerprints, they have your photo.
Okay.
Both front and profile.
All right.
Yeah, that's a big one. Let's see. Muhuri has basically gone to court and they are raising very good questions.
Oh, let's see. So, there's this story. Pastor from hell's shock admission. It is quite one. A man confesses he defiled and made his daughters pregnant. One of the daughters one of the daughters has a baby while one is pregnant, and the 51-year-old man will be sentenced tomorrow. That's the subheadline after prosecution produces birth certificates of the victims. A man who impregnated his daughters yesterday pleaded guilty to defilement charges before a Kenyaga court. The 51-year-old man, identified in court as HB to protect the identity of his victims, stunned the court after he admitted to charges of defiling his daughters aged 14 and 16 before escaping to Embu County to avoid arrest. The police had said HB was a pastor at a local church. He ran away from his home but was cornered in Bere South, where he had disguised himself as a desperate herder from Somalia who was looking for a job. What sold him out, the police said, was his accent, and his suspicious residents got hold of him and reported to the local chief, who notified the police. Senior Principal Magistrate Anthony Mwishigi, sitting at Barito Law Courts, asked the accused what relationship he had with the two girls in his case, and he admitted that they were his daughters. They are my daughters. I slept with them and made them pregnant, he said. When the charges were read to him by the court clerk, he did not flinch or deny. Yes, I slept with my daughters, he said, to the shock of those in court. The magistrate noted that a plea of guilt had been entered after the confession. He ruled that the accused appears before the same court tomorrow for sentencing, at the same time giving the prosecution time to produce birth certificates of the victims. State Prosecutor Patricia Gikonju had told court she needed time to get the victims' birth certificates to ascertain their ages. And he's been charged with the defilement of the 16-year-old daughter on diverse dates between 1st and 30th of June 2019 at their home in Kirinyaga West sub-county.
Hey.
Yes, so this is a heavy one, waiting for sentencing tomorrow.
That's a very sad story.
I was actually
sad
waiting.
For the children.
It's tragic. I was waiting to read that the magistrate has actually asked the security force to take that man to have his
test.
Because you have to ask, is this guy okay?
Okay, sure.
Also, do a bit of a background check. If some of these cases, if you think about the stories that you've read of such a nature, there's some religious issue to it. Something to do with, some cult.
I mean, there's got to be something. He is a pastor as well, but you look at his initial reaction. His initial reaction was flight, right? He took off and disguised himself as someone else.
Yep.
Then upon being captured, he didn't spend too much time denying this.
He was like, okay, yeah.
He said, okay, yes, I did. I'm ready to face whatever it is. Had he gotten away, maybe we would not have heard about this story, right? And found out, unless maybe the girls would have told their story from their side of it later on. But his initial response was to get away from it, from it all. So apart from running away from what it is that he did, he was running away from something else as well. So yes, I would think absolutely would be necessary for his mental state to be checked on.
If someone actually acknowledges and responds to a terrible event that they have occasioned, it is good if they show signs of guilt. Or remorse. It's because it shows that they have a clear understanding of right and wrong.
But the conscience is still functional.
Yes.
Yeah.
But still, one has to find out what is it that drove this man to do this heinous and hideous thing.
To two of his children.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And where were these girls' mothers?
It's a whole story about even the community, and a lot can be unearthed from just the community around him.
Yeah, investigation as well.
What was happening? What's happening in this person's homestead? How do they live? A lot of that needs to come out. So these
headlines that we write in the media, surely. Like, listen to this one. MPs oppose bid to raise debt limit to 12 trillion.
Okay.
Page 2 of the Standard. of the Star. Okay. Treasury will find it difficult to raise the debt ceiling to 12 trillion from the current 9 trillion because some MPs oppose the plan. Not all, not the majority, some. Now, listen to the next paragraph, is even more interesting.
Okay.
The lawmakers say it would be untenable to allow Treasury to go on another borrowing spree, raising the debt ceiling. Sources say the Jubilee administration is planning fresh amendments to the public finance management regulation to push the debt cap. Have MPs come back from the recess? No, they haven't. Has this thing been brought to the floor of the House? No, it hasn't. If this entire story is conjecture, and if you read further, they say one of the reasons why this is because Parliament is currently polarized by the Building Bridges initiatives and politics of the 2022 succession. Since when have such matters gotten in the way of the possibility of them not earning a salary? Since when?
So this is just creating some...
No, the things we do sometimes, when people point to us and say that we sometimes highlight the wrong things and we give misleading information, they cannot be blamed.
Okay, so what is misleading?
The headline, MPs oppose bid to raise debt limit.
Okay. And it says there are some MPs. Does it quote which MPs those are?
Oh, no.
It doesn't say which MPs.
No.
It doesn't say even MP so-and-so said, I will vote no.
Just says some, eh?
There are some MPs.
They even say, but some MPs said, not quoted, the proposal might not sail through Parliament because of the country's economic situation.
Some MPs.
Some.
It doesn't name anyone.
Nothing. You can read the article from beginning to the end. There's nothing. So where's the story?
You have to keep a story alive, Bana. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
There is always a possibility that there's some people who will oppose these things. Always.
Yeah.
I don't know of any bill, of any process in Parliament that has had 100% consensus.
It would have been nice to actually quote a certain member of Parliament and say, these are the reasons why I am opposed to any idea. Not even before it comes to to Parliament. Just the idea that we could even raise this debt ceiling again. I'm opposed to it, and these are my reasons. But just saying MPs oppose, and some MPs that we spoke to, some even say, others say, this is those sorts of sources within sources.
Yeah, undisclosed.
Yeah, sources told us.
But look, even if you quote which sources, the truth is this. Justice Maraga handed the president a tool that surpasses any other tool that any president in this country has ever had. The power to dissolve Parliament.
Yep.
It has no expiry date, this one. He has it. So you really think that if there's a push and the president says, no, this is the way we want to go, that it will not sail through.
They can push back.
It's not the pushback I'm talking
They
about.
can. They
That
can.
it
They
will
can tell
sail,
you,
that it will not sail through.
So you dissolve it to see whether you get your BBI.
I would like.
So you dissolve it to see whether
I
you
would
get.
actually, I would actually like to see that happen. Because
Actually, I think some politicians can actually dare the president.
Some.
Go ahead.
What I'm saying is,
Go ahead.
will it say? I would actually like to see this. This is the thing I would actually love to see. This pushback.
Yes. Go ahead and dissolve it.
Because the pushback would tell me that you have individuals within parliament who are not very concerned about self-interest. Yes. I would like to see that.
That would be a good one.
Yes.
Daily business, daily headline.
All right. Okay.
Daily business.
Now, this one is really actually very interesting.
Right.
Because as borrowers use chairs, TV, cows to access 26.8 billion.
Okay. Even before you go any further, as long as you're talking about chairs, TV, cows, that means that you're not going to the banks. This is Shylocks. Shylocks lent out to how many billions?
No, even banks, my friend.
Banks took chairs.
Banks took TVs.
Bank, you take a TV to
Bank
bank.
took TVs.
No. If you are looking for collateral to borrow, even furniture.
Banks.
Yes.
Okay.
Household goods can be used
I read the story.
to secure loans.
Read the
even
story.
with banks.
Higher.
Yes.
Let's see.
Cash-strapped Kenyans increasingly use household goods, livestock, and office equipment to borrow 20 chairs are part of office equipment. 26.8 billion from commercial banks in the 4 months that followed the phased reopening of the economy in July, when individuals and businesses were starved of credit.
All right.
Central Bank of Kenya data shows that a third of the new loans of 84.6 billion issued by commercial banks between July and October, this is what they used: household goods, live animals, and office equipment as collateral. The
Actually,
Movable Property Security Rights Act of 2017 has enabled banks to diversify collateral from the tradition of using immovable assets, primarily land and building, which are beyond the reach of most Kenyans.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I see it now.
You see it? I'm glad you see it.
And if we say how many billions?
26.
If you say 26
Total,
billion,
but,
26 billion
but
from
third,
commercial banks.
July to October, it's 84.6 billion.
84 billion.
Billion.
Between July and October. Just from the commercial banks. Now, can you imagine those that lend now, the Shylocks and the others who say...
Let's go in descending order, shall we? Let's start with banks.
Yes.
Fintech.
And then you go into this
microfinances.
Fintechs.
And then let's come to Shylocks.
And then you go into these ones now, the ones that tell you, logbook loans.
Those ones.
Those.
Yes.
You can imagine much, much more was actually borrowed from these particular institutions. That tells you a lot about, it's a good thing that those regulations were eased in 2017 to allow for those immovable assets.
Yes.
Or movable.
They are movable. They are movable.
Movable assets.
Our banks preferred immovable assets, but also this posed a bit of a problem. There are parts of the country where an immovable asset will not be considered security. They will not touch it. For the simple reason that disposing of it is a real headache.
It's hard.
So they don't touch it. If you have security, they tell you, weka pesa.
Ongeza pesa.
Ongeza pesa.
Hey, okay.
Right, so we're looking at details of this next story. Next hour, another doctor strike looms as governors disown pay deal. The country is staring at another health sector paralysis after governors disowned a return-to-work formula the government signed with doctors and clinical officers. The county bosses yesterday said the perks agreed on in the return-to-work formula are unaffordable, and they were never consulted before the figures were arrived at. But the health workers reacted sharply to the governor's move, vowing to head back to the streets in what is likely to cripple health services across the country again. At a press conference, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers chairman, Peterson Washira, gave the governors 48 hours to sign the formula arrived at, with a multi-agency team led by Labour Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui failure to which their earlier strike will resume. And I quote, "We are putting the Council of Governors on notice. If the return to work formula is not going to hold, then that means the strike resumes." The move by the governors is also likely to put them on a collision course with President Uhuru Kenyatta, who intervened to end the medic strike, which had paralyzed healthcare across the country. We really want to know why they would go against the head of state and object to what he gave us to end the strike. This is insubordination and intimidation. If we are not given what we signed for, then we are going to go back to the streets. This according to the KUKO Secretary General, George Gibore. It's not clear why the governors have changed their stand on the issue, yet they were party to the negotiations, have even appended their signature on the medics' return to work formula.
Okay. I think reading that story, there are some parts of this story and even the Nation editorial that raises some questions, because I think the journalists are mixing two unions. There is a deal that was struck between the government, the county governments, and the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, and these are the doctors. And there's a deal that was struck between the national government and the Clinical Officers Union in the absence of the Council of Governors. And this is where the issue now starts coming in, is, were the governors actually involved in this particular deal between the government and the Council of Governors? They were not. The people who signed that were Peterson Washira, National Chairman of KUKO, Gibore, the Secretary General, the National Treasurer, Mary Boniface, and then it was signed on behalf of the Ministry of Health by Senator Mutahi Kagwe, the Cabinet Secretary. On behalf of the Council of Governors, the signatures were not appended by the chair of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, or the chairman of the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors, James Ongwae, or Simon Chelugui, the Cabinet Secretary for Labour. This particular return to work deal, those three have not signed. So we really cannot say that they were part of that conversation.
Remember, we raised this yesterday. And we raised it because the Council of Governors were complaining. It's like a deal was agreed upon that they were not party to. 1, 2, they can't afford it.
And they're the employer.
They don't have the money.
Yes. They can't afford
so
it.
So this is the employer, and the employer has actually not signed the deal. It's somebody else who has signed the deal on behalf of your employer.
But by the time you're signing the deal on behalf, then you have that permission, no?
No.
You just go ahead and sign.
It is hoped that you do, but
in a proper situation, it would be that if you were signing on somebody's behalf, that you have their permission and their go ahead to do it.
Yes.
You don't just go and append your signature to something for which you're presenting someone else, and that individual doesn't know.
Ought to have been
done.
The conversations ought to have happened between them.
For sure. And say, okay, we can't make it today, sign on our behalf, that kind of thing. But I mean, really.
And still, that's still. We cannot sign our contract with somebody who is not an employee of the Standard Media Group. It doesn't matter whether the CEO or Lando Liombo actually told you, okay, yeah, you guys, just sign, I'm coming. If he doesn't end up signing, that's it. Surely.
You know, I get the impression that this confusion that we're talking about is not. I believe it's contrived.
Probably,
yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, because
we'll have that conversation in the next hour. We'll be speaking with this chairman of the Labour Committee of the Council of Governors, Governor Ongwae of Kisii County, and then also we'll have a conversation with the chairperson of the Clinical Officers Union, Peterson Washira. They'll be joining us in the next hour. Keep it right here for that conversation. Let's try and understand exactly what's happening in terms of addressing the plight of healthcare workers in the country. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so it's building up in Mombasa this morning, and just beyond the SGR, headed outbound to the city. So in this case, coming into the city would be inbound. Looks kind of slow this morning, but it's not at bumper-to-bumper proportions just yet. All right, let's look at other parts. Coming into the CBD from Westlands, that's moving very slowly this morning. Not quite sure why. Haven't been given reasons as to why that may be. Thika Road, however, coming to the Pangani underpass and then out towards Pangani, very, very slow this morning. Everybody's trying to come back to work, schools, more and more people going back to school this morning. Not as many, rather much more than yesterday. Okay, so it looks like it's building up, but it's not crazy around the city just yet. What we are going to do is look at other parts of the country. We'll look at Mombasa, Nakuru, and parts of Kisumu as well. We'll come back and do that. Are you stuck somewhere? Let us know. Eastern and southern bypasses, those are open with no problems today. Longer way into the CBD and out, but it'll get you there without any traffic whatsoever. Let us know what you see, guys. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Text 40127 if you get stuck somewhere or if you find a good route that nobody's known about. Do share.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 2.5 minutes after 7 o'clock.
The only way
this
to
is Kenya's
start your
biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM this morning, wherever you are, www.spicefm.co.ke or Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. Or if you are listening in from the radio, 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7. As we begin the hour, C.T. Muga will remind us today's proverb.
You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you.
You know who you love.
That you know.
But you can't know who loves you.
You know the person you love. When you're a bit younger, you know who it is who makes your heart palpitate, literally.
Yes.
And who leaves you breathless, literally.
Yes.
And who makes you transfer your capacity for sight to your mouth. Because usually when you are in awe, you open your mouth wide. It's as though if you open it wider, you'll be able to see better. You actually don't see better.
Because they're awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That you know.
But can't you tell someone who's doing all those things towards you?
My friend, the person may just be having sleep deprivation and they're yawning, for heaven's sake.
And do you think it's love?
Maybe nothing at all to do with you.
No, has nothing to do with you at all. Knowing who loves you, tricky, that one.
Gumu sana.
Tricky.
Okay, so let's talk about this deal that was struck between the national government, the Ministry of Health, according to the document itself, which we're having a look at, the 47 county governments, the 47 county public service boards, and the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and the Union of Clinical Officers. Okay, so this is what it says. That number one, therefore, the parties agree as follows. That the employer undertakes to ensure provision of adequate PPEs as per guidelines. That the National Treasury is agreeing to fast-track release of required budgetary allocation to enable the counties procure a comprehensive insurance, group life, last expense, enhanced work injury benefits, and a group personal accident cover as provided for by NHIF. Also, counties will make arrangements to procure comprehensive medical insurance as provided by NHIF on expiry of the running contracts. Number 3, employers endeavor to enlist employees on contract above 1 year and those who are permanent and pensionable to be on comprehensive life insurance cover. For those on contracts that are below 1 year, the employers consult with the National Treasury and the Ministry of Public Service and Gender and NHIF on their inclusion to group life insurance cover. So here we're talking about those who have a contract below 1 year. The negotiations will happen and conversation will happen in the National Treasury, NHIF, the Ministry of Public Service on how then they can be put into comprehensive group life insurance, and those that are on permanent and pensionable to be put in that life insurance. Higher, employer shall designate fully equipped COVID isolation facility for treatment of union members. Employer undertakes immediate release of all withheld salaries and allowances to the members of the union. The parties commit to resolve all other outstanding issues raised in the strike notice of the 23rd of November 2020 on this agreement, and that the multi-agency standing committee will provide comprehensive monthly periodic reports for parties. Basically, they're saying this is all in good faith. So if you listen to all those things from point number 4, there are others now. Employers will review the risk allowances for clinical officers to 15,000 shillings. Ensuring employees are hired on contractual terms, are compensated on obtaining terms and conditions of service. So it was an entire 18-point agreement between national government, where that was signed by Mutahi Kagwe, the CS for Health. It was signed by the chair, the Secretary General, and the Treasurer of the Clinical Officers Union, and that's it. The part that was supposed to be signed by Wycliffe Oparanya, the Council of Governors Chair, or James Ongwae, the Chairman of the Labour Committee of the Council of Governors, or Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, Simon Chalugui, was not signed on that particular day. Maybe they were supposed now to sign later, append their signature later. So, Council meets on Monday of Governors, and the Governors look at this deal, and the Governors are like, wait a minute, this one we really cannot honour. And so the Governors now wrote a letter dated the 4th of January, which is that Monday, to the Cabinet Secretary for Health. And they say, look, we understand that you guys have signed a return to work formula. The county governments uphold the interests of all workers, including health workers. And the negotiations were undertaken to arrive to the return to work formula by the two unions, though well-intended, need to have involved each county government, because individual county governments are already addressing the issues of health workers and are at advanced stages. So they say, because of all those things, here is a resolution of the council. Number 1, the risk allowances that require a minimum increment of between 500 and 650% to only 2 cadres, in effect, is going to have a ripple effect to the other cadres. Conversion of contracts to permanent and pensionable will require astronomical resources, and we don't have those. Enhanced comprehensive group life cover requires resources to be allocated to pay up families of healthcare workers for 8 years. This requires money to be set aside, and we don't have that. So they're saying, Bas, now we are bringing to your attention the council resolutions, and we request your meeting with you, Bwana CS, so we can discuss this matter. Having gotten wind of this, the union decided, now, by the way, if you guys don't resolve this matter, tomorrow we are going on strike. Back on strike.
You get 48 hours.
Yes. So it appears, one arm of government was speaking, the other arm of government was not party to this conversation. The union was sitting with, it knows this is government.
I'm at pains to understand the employer of these individuals is county.
Yes.
Right? I'm at pains to understand why they were not, if that is what is being said, were not consulted when it came to money which the employer essentially is going to pay to these individuals.
Were not present at
this particular meeting. Why did this not happen?
Let's ask that question to His Excellency James Ongwae, the Governor of Kisii County, who is the chairman of the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors. Good morning, sir.
Morning to you. Am I talking to Latif?
Yes, you are. In the room also we have C.T. Muga and Nduoko.
Thank you very much, and morning to you.
Good morning,
sir.
To this good radio station.
Asante sana for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Because you surprise us quite a lot in the morning.
Well, so the first question is, we have seen copies, we have access to the copy of the return to work formula that was signed by the union and the national government represented by Health CS Mutahi Kagwe. And we see the part that you were supposed to have signed, you and your chairman, Wycliffe Oparanya, is not signed. What does this mean? Were you not in this meeting?
We were not in that meeting. But I don't think that is the broader issue. The broader issue is that for us to sign any document, because we represent, I am a chair for Labour, I represent the other governors, the 47 governors. And the chair for the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, also represents the other 47 governors. So we had to call for a meeting of all the governors so that they can be taken through whatever return to work formula that was signed, which we ourselves had not signed. In any case, we would not have signed it without going through with them. And that's exactly what we were doing. We're going through with them the essence of that return to work formula, so that they can all agree, because they are employers, like our good lady there has just said. They are employers as of right.
But Governor, I'm a bit confused. I'm trying to understand. So are we saying that the two parties that had signed, the process was not complete? We're waiting for now the Council of Governors to come in and sign? Or are we saying that the process was completed and we're taking a back step and saying, hold on a minute, governors were not present here, so we need to go through this again and see, we're not going to sign it without having gone through it properly? Which one are we saying? It was completed, we're not consulted, or it has not been completed? The last part is where governors need to come in and complete.
That's a difficult one, again, to tell you, because frankly, the process, the conciliation process was still going on in the Ministry of Labour. So if the clinical officers, probably, because we are talking about the clinical officers, we probably don't have a lot of problems with the issue of doctors, because the issue of doctors did not have any serious financial implications. The issue of doctors was about working conditions and so on. It didn't have any serious financial implications. We are talking about the deal that was signed with the clinical officers. So what we are actually saying, that is that in any event, even if there were discussions with these parties, those discussions would have to go back to the governors, so that, and that is what we've done before. Okay. We've signed a recognition agreement with the nursing union. We signed recognition agreement with the clinical officers, but all the governors signed, and you people from the media were there in Delta House. We all came there as governors, and we all signed.
So basically, just to go through the process here is that when such a meeting takes place, you are required as chair of the Labour Committee, as chair of a Council of Governors, to call the full council meeting and take them through what has been discussed. And then each of them then gives their consent.
Once they give their consent, then I put my good signature on that document.
All right. But in this particular case, the meeting that was taking place, first of all, were you aware that the meeting was taking place? Number two, were you party to the discussions and the 20-point agreement, the 18-point agreement that the union and the health ministry signed?
What I was aware of, and what everybody was aware of, was that there were conciliation meetings that were going on between the county government, the national government, Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Labour. And they were being chaired by the Ministry of Labour, where we had our own technical officers, and those meetings have not been finalized.
Okay. One of the issues that has come out, Governor, is that this return to work formula and some of the tenets therein are unaffordable by county. That really there is no money at this time to make those payments. Is that the case? Or are we still looking at the vagaries of this formula? Which one is it? There's no money, or we're still trying to go through the details?
Actually, about 70%, between 60 to 70% of the issues that have been signed on, these are operational and administrative issues, and we do not have a problem with them.
Okay.
There is between 30 to 45% of the issues, and I could go through them with you.
Yes.
That have very, very serious financial implications. it's quite easy to tell somebody that okay, in the next, for instance, let's take the one of where we are saying that we will increase the risk allowance from about 3,000 to 15,000 shillings. And we are saying, even if you actually did say that you will do it when you get the resources, I don't think it is fair. It's not fair to even tell your kids that I'm going to buy you something I can't buy you.
So you're saying that this is too high?
If I take you through the raft of their salary and allowances,
yes,
and I even relate it to you with the other cadres in the civil service, you will understand what I mean.
Okay.
If I probably take you for the doctors, you seeing the highest at job group, what we call a job group S in the civil service.
Mm-hmm.
The highest the doctor gets is about 197,000. That is the salary.
Mm-hmm.
The house allowance is 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then they also get a commuter allowance of 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
They get an emergency call allowance of 30,000. They get an extraneous allowance of 40,000. They get an unpracticing allowance of 60,000. They get a health service allowance of 20,000. The entire amount comes to about 363,000.
So this is the highest paid doctor in the county.
That's for the doctors.
Okay.
That's for the doctors for the highest, yeah.
Okay.
If you come to the nurses, and I will just give you a simple idea for the nurses at a simple job group K.
Mm-hmm.
I have not gone to a higher level. At a job group K, which is the entry level for engineers, for architects, for economists, and for the others, I'll just give you.
Mm-hmm.
The highest the nurse gets there is about 51,000. That's the salary.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get a house allowance of about 21,000. They get a commuter allowance of 5,000. They get an extraneous allowance of 20,000. They get a health risk allowance of 3,850. And then they get a health service allowance of 20,000. They get a uniform allowance of about 10,000. The whole salary comes to about 118. If you go, because we don't only employ health personnel in the counties, if you deal with an architect who has left the university or an engineer at that level, an electrical engineer or a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or an agricultural officer who has done agricultural economics, or even actually a doctor, the veterinary doctor, you are dealing here with an higher salary of about, at that level, of about 51,000. Then they get a house allowance of 21,000 and a commuter allowance of 5,000, and that's all they get, which takes their salary to about 64,000. When the others at that level, the nurse is getting 118,000. So these are issues that sometimes, and this is why I want to talk to you, media, because I think that you have been extremely unfair. If I was working in the media where you're working Latin, I would do those comparisons so that it doesn't become just easy to say, listen to them, give them what they want, and so on. If that doesn't happen, then there is a stigmatization of the governors, that they are not giving them what they want, and so on. It's a broader issue than that. Governors have got, in the county government, just like in the national government, we have almost about 30 or 40 other cadres that we are also dealing with. We also have salary structures that are completely inflexible because the salary is actually approved by the SRC. And one of the things that we were also saying, even when we were discussing as governors, is that some of these issues we probably needed SRC approval.
So as I understand you, and just using the examples that you've just very clearly given us here, a nurse at Job Group K is earning 118,000 shillings total.
At the
maximum 118,000 shillings, while an engineer or an architect or a veterinary doctor at that same job group will go home with thereabout of 64,000 shillings, or maybe even up to 70,000 shillings. So there's a difference there.
Yes.
Now, if we say that also a clinical officer maybe in the same job group will of course be earning about a bit higher, the point that the council is then raising is if we increase the allowance by a further 500 to 650%, you're taking that payment much higher than now, even what you currently already have.
You see what we are saying, and people can make noise wherever they are listening to the radio, but we are here dealing, I do believe that we are dealing with facts.
Yeah.
And facts don't lie. So if we are dealing with facts, we must also accept the realities. For instance, at the moment, we must accept the reality that we have a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We must also accept the reality that our economy has shrunk. That's a reality. And it's not only in Kenya that the economy has shrunk, so that we start stigmatizing even national government. This has happened in this world that we are living in.
So do I hear you say? Do I hear you say, Governor, if I may interject there, that if we're doing this comparative analysis between health workers, nurses, for example, and other cadres of careers in the country and what they're earning, that is there a plea then from your side to say, accept this because as it is, you're earning more? So just hold on until we get things better?
The plea that I'm making is that it can't be about salaries all the time, because I have been the chairman for Labour since we started the Council of Governors. That's for the last 8 years. And if you recall, in 2017, just before the last general elections, we were on we had a big problem with the nurses and with the clinical officers. In fact, for the doctors in 2017, for 100 days, they were on strike. For the nurses, it was 153 days.
Yep.
153 days, that's about 5 months that they were on strike. Mm-hmm. And when the strike ended, of course, again, listening to the Kenyans and everybody, they came back to work, and we also paid them even for those 5 months that they didn't work.
Mm. So why would the grievance be so strong at this point? And I know one of the things that has come out come out with this grievance is COVID-19. They've talked about the PPEs and they've talked about all of these things coming into, which have all come into this return to work formula. They've all been represented there. With what you're saying, why would there be such vehemence from them saying that something needs to be done?
You see, if it was the issues that related to their working conditions, like for instance, we had been requested as a council that we put aside utilities, or we put aside specific special wards for the health personnel, which we have all done. If it was also about PPEs, that please give us PPEs, but also ensure that the PPEs are up to standard. That any county government that doesn't do that I would not understand. Because each county government should be able to give the workers the PPEs, and the PPEs must be up to standard so that they don't become sick. But when you mix that also with additional, an increase in salary, an increase in basically your personnel emoluments, then you are getting into trouble. And also when you do it in a time of a pandemic, when we do not know of any country in this world where health workers have done so. And incidentally, if I have to say, and again here we are dealing with facts, if I was working in a radio station, a good radio, one of in fact right now the best radio station in this country, if I was working with you, I would do a comparative analysis of their salary with the other salaries of health workers in the sub-Saharan Africa. Mm-hmm. And you can take this to the bank, that we probably are paying the best salary in sub-Saharan Africa for health workers, apart from probably South Africa. So it can't be about salaries. There is also the broader context of even the Florence Nightingale concept which should apply to the health personnel.
Are you talking about sacrifice?
It's not sacrifice. It is the call. Like now, you have your own call as a professional in the area of communication. What's your calling? You have a calling, isn't it? So there is a calling for every cadre. There is a calling for every specialization. And that is all we are saying. The simple calling is, for instance, Florence Nightingale relates to humility, relates to sympathy, relates to loyalty, relates to devotion, relates to obedience to the calling of your profession. So we are saying that there are times and times for strikes, and there are times when they shouldn't be. Like the time during the pandemic, when everybody is suffering, that's not the time to go this route, because this route smacks of some form of blackmail.
One of the things that you could say that had led to the clinical officers, the doctors and the nurses going on strike, Governor, even with addition now to the issue of personal emoluments, is the issue of their own well-being in their workplaces. If that had been addressed from the very beginning, if, for example,
and that's why I've told you, Latif, I've told you, if it was working conditions, that you can beat me.
Let me ask this question, Governor.
We should actually be dealing with working conditions. Strictly working conditions, working conditions, working conditions.
Governor, we actually hear you, and you have a point, and there is a gap. There is something that we in the media have actually not done well, and we thank you for pointing some of these things out. However, let me ask of you this. Are you saying that every governor in the country has been able to do the very things that you're saying?
I am saying that, and again, you can take this to the bank. If you go around, if you are looking, you will probably find almost close to 90%. Even in your own house, there are certain things that you don't do. If there are a few counties that have got specific problems, let them be mentioned. And we as governors, even when we are together, when we are in the room, we can then tell each other that, hey, you have not done this and this. But this generalization, I do not accept. And this generalization makes some people get away with murder.
Let me ask then a different question.
Then it becomes easy to generalize and actually say that these governors can't do anything else. These governors probably are only used to doing these other bad things and so on. That sells. That sounds very good to the common man. That is easier. Stigmatizing a certain profession becomes very easy, and those others who are doing wrong things get away with murder. And that's what's happening at the moment.
But let me ask this question. One of the things that has been a sticking point every time health workers go on strike is not necessarily what we hear now about the increase in salary, but the actual payment of what it is that is due to them. Let me ask the question I want to ask with reference to this. Do the governors get the support that is required from the national government to be able to meet these demands? Just paying salaries normally, because many strikes we've come across have had to do with salaries delaying, not for a month, not for two, but for even longer than that.
Now let me tell you.
Please go ahead,
sir.
Let
me tell you that.
No, this is not Latif. This is CT Muga.
Muga.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, CT. Now, CT, before the pandemic,
yes,
if there was any county that was delaying in paying salaries, it was an administrative issue that was county specific. I'll give you as the example of my own county where I come from, Kisumu County. We do not, as a matter of principle, delay paying salaries. We have never delayed, and my workers, wherever they are, they know that. Now, I'll give you the example for COVID. When COVID came in, we all as county governments understood that government national government or the treasury doesn't have enough resources. We have not received the resources for 3 months, all the county governments. But that has not stopped us from paying. We have used methods. We have looked for resources. Some of us have gone to the banks to actually get overdraft so that we can pay. So, like in my own case, I'm up to date in payments Of course, I don't tell the workers that I've not got money from the treasury. I pay their salaries. Their salaries have been paid, even though I've not received money for 3 months. Now, tell me this. Do you actually go and in such a situation, in a situation of a pandemic, in a situation where you empathize with national government because of the shrinking of the resourcing base, is that a time that you can also actually agree that you are increasing allowances?
When would be a good time? What would you prefer in terms of when should these grievances come out? Because it would seem as if that these grievances exist. COVID has exacerbated these grievances. What would you prefer in time, in terms of time that they can bring these out to the fore?
I would not prefer, ma'am, that there should be any grievances. And the grievances, if they relate to their working conditions, what they need in order to actualize their professional work, those grievances can come in any time. If we are dealing with lack of PPEs and so on, for God's sake, those grievances can be any day, any time. If they are dealing with their own welfare in terms of, because they are much more exposed and they need to be taken care of much more than anybody else, that is understandable. That can come in any time.
It seems that's one of the things that has come out.
If you bring that out, you also add the whole issue of additional salary, then you really would be, I think you would be slightly unfair. So in a time like this, what I would expect, which I expect if you are the one who was working in the health service, you need to complain about your working conditions.
Yeah.
Because you are a human being and you are bound to actually become sick.
Fair enough.
So it's logical.
Fair enough, Governor. One of the things that came up during this whole talk and the negotiations and even the strike notice was welfare, some of which had actually been discussed, and even the president himself pronouncing himself to this and saying, yes, during this pandemic, because our healthcare workers, our frontline workers, they're the ones exposing themselves to this fight against COVID, let's increase their allowances. So the issue of allowances during the COVID is one of them. The issue of them getting access to health insurance or enhanced health insurance is a second one. The issue of them getting that group life cover is a third one. And we've seen these stories coming out. A doctor dies and they're left destitute. Their siblings or their families are basically left destitute. That's what they were bringing out. We have seen it happen. A doctor has died. They do not have medical cover. Their colleagues and friends and family are the ones who are contributing for them. And after they've died, their families are left without anything. So when you talk about now the group life cover and the enhanced allowances, those are about their welfare at this time, are they not?
Absolutely, and that's what I said, if it's about their welfare. But welfare, don't mix welfare with increase of salaries and other allowances. For instance, the allowance that you are talking about was a specific allowance that was given by the president. It was called COVID allowance. And it was a specified allowance with a time frame.
Yeah.
So it was not something that after the time frame, you then formalize. Because that is the route that has been taken.
Yeah.
You don't formalize a specific allowance that has been given for a specific period. Now, on the issue of medical cover, that is a logical and important issue. But I will tell you, the issue of medical cover, and let's be fair also to the other workers that are in the counties. For instance, in my own county, I went further. All the workers in the county have got the medical cover, which is also enhanced. Mm-hmm. So you also, if you are doing some of these things, for God's sake, if you have workers, just ensure that just like in your own house, you can't have special ones that you are giving special food and the others you are giving them different food. It doesn't work like that. And the lady who is in the room that you are sitting will tell you that won't work.
It won't work?
Yeah.
So the three issues that you've raised here with the health CS.
The one to take care of the kids for us. She will tell you that, please, all these are my kids. I have to take care of them well. But this other one, for instance, if he's doing some of these other things, he probably is working overtime. I
Give
will
him a
have to
little
wake
extra.
up at night. I'll have to wake up at night, make him some tea, and so on. And that's what we've done for the medical personnel. We have said that they are working beyond the call of duty.
So the three
and
issues.
there are other things that they are doing that are supporting other human beings. That we have taken care of.
I want to come to the three issues that you raised in your letter to the Health CS. I mean, the letter written by the chairman of the Council of Governors to the Health CS. One is raising the issue of risk allowances and saying that's too high. I think we've already discussed that. The second one is the conversion of contracts to permanent and pensionable. One of the things that, and this has come up in our conversations with doctors, nurses, clinical officers, and other cadres of healthcare workers, is that issue of being employed on contracts that are even less than a year, and you're not even sure how long you're going to be in employment. Don't you think it would be fair that every employee then gets some sort of permanence in their sort of contract?
Latif, when I came into the county, when I came to Kisii County, there were only 17 doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I have now employed 176 doctors, and I want to employ more if I have resources. In fact, out of those 176 doctors, I have released 67 of them to go for master's training, to go for specialist training, because I want, whether it is in oncology, whether it is in pediatrics, whether it's in general surgery, whether it is in whatever it is, whether it's in as a general physician, I have released 67 of them, and I pay their salaries. They are doing their masters, and I want to employ more. So if I got only 17, I have employed over 170. It's not an issue of somebody of counties not wanting to employ. Now, in this particular instance, the government decided that probably because of the financials and these other things, let's have a stopgap measure. So the stopgap measure was put in place, where the contractual issue came up.
Yeah.
And I've even had this contractual issue actually being talked about all over, that we probably need to put people on even employment needs to be on contract. I suspect that in your workplaces, some of you are on contract.
Yeah.
But that's not the issue right now, because you're on contract and you sound like you people are fairly happy people. Now,
not everybody who loves you, Governor. Not everybody who says they love you loves you.
Governor, you have a wonderful sense of humor.
But anyway, coming down to this, it was a stopgap measure. And the government decided that let's take in, even if it's for a short term, let's take in these people for this and this period. In my own county, I found in nurses that were on contract, that had been brought on contract, some under Care Kenya, some under whatever. When their contracts ended, when I looked at my financials, I took them over. So this is a matter that is negotiable, but it's not a matter that you then have to direct, because what you are doing then to government is that next time you are telling them that even if there is a crisis, even if you do not have resources, do not then do any stopgap measures. That's basically what you are telling government. That's what you are telling national government, and that's what you are telling the county government, that if you have if you have a problem, and you can take this to the bank even where you are working, you people are working right now. There are certain instances that you bring people on contract, and when they finish what they are doing, they go away.
Yep.
But we were not saying that these workers go away. This was an issue that can be negotiated. Probably you can negotiate that, okay, extend the contract. Some you can extend the contract, after some time you find that you actually need them. That's the nature of work in the entire world. In the developed world, all the workers are on contract.
Governor,
we have not reached there.
Governor, in your county, the county of Kisii, Have your health workers ever threatened to go on strike for whatever reason?
They have never threatened to go on strike unless they are supporting other workers, which they are doing right now. Because I do everything. I have meetings with them. I do everything they want.
Then would you say the same is true of your brother and sister governors across the country? Because for there to be a complaint, unless we're saying that these health workers are lying to us and that the problems that they have are not really what they are saying they are, then it means that there are counties, now this is not a blame game, I'm merely stating the facts, that there are counties who probably don't meet these basic obligations that the health workers expect them to meet.
That may well be. It is the same analogy that you can have for every house. There could be houses where people eat meat and ugali every day. There could be houses where people are eating ugali and sukuma wiki every day. I mean, that could well be. But the ideal situation is where you are ensuring that the workers, if it's health workers, if it's working conditions, if they are going for surgery, they have the right PPEs. That is the ideal condition. If they are nurses or whatever, that in whatever, like during the pandemic, that whatever basic minimum that has been set by the Ministry of Health occurs in all the counties. And that's what I would want to see from every governor, including myself. And that's what I think I would vote for the governors. And that's why I said when we started, please tell me which county. Don't generalize.
So are you saying governors...
Generalization is very easy to advance an argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very easy to say these governors are thieves. That sounds beautiful, sounds perfect.
Sounds scandalous. The things that people would like to hear.
And sells. You put it in the headlines of your newspaper, it sells. It sounds real nice.
Sure, but
the people understand that. They want to understand that.
Governor, do you think that there are let's just take clinical officers, for example, because this is the bone of contention right now, and even with lab technicians as well, who also have not heard their pleas. But do you really believe that there would be those who go onto the streets, like their chairman has said, go back into the streets in 48 hours? Are you saying that they would get onto the streets knowing full well that the benefits and allowances that they're looking for have been catered for, their salary is being paid without any problems, but they're on the streets protesting? Do you think that there are individuals who would do that? Based on what you're saying, that it's a generalization and that county to county people have been sorted out. Are there those who would go on the streets just to join the foray because they don't have anything else to do?
If they go on the street arguing that the basic necessities to do their work have not been met, I will understand them.
But these are some of the things that they're saying.
Just listen to me, please. And that's where you're going wrong. Because you are not demarcating issues. If they go to the streets, that their working conditions and others have not been met, I will understand them.
Okay.
But if they go to the streets at this time of the pandemic, that even through what I have taken you through, what they get, that they need some more money on their salary and allowances, then that I will not understand. And if you support them as members of the media, then you don't live in this country. And that's what is happening. You do your headlines, whether it's print or electronic media, you are doing your headlines there without doing your research and without understanding the conditions under which we are living in this country at the moment.
So it's about two issues then. So it's about welfare and the basics. Give us PPEs, give us an isolation ward, give us some just enhanced allowance during this period. Help us to be able to meet our medical needs and our insurance cover. Those ones on one side. And then there's the other of put us on permanent and pensionable contract. Give us an enhanced life cover. Those are different issues in as far as you look at them.
Enhanced cover may go into the first one because it's related, it's supporting because they work in very difficult conditions.
Right.
Enhanced cover, that goes to the first one. But the second one, where you are dealing with salary and emolument, you mix it with the first one because you want to get away with murder that is completely and absolutely unacceptable. That's what I'm telling you.
Understood. Have you had these conversations with the unions and their leadership? For example, since this meeting took place and you did not attend it, have you reached out to the union leadership and told them, guys, come? So, in as far as point number 1, 7, 16, 6, and 5 are concerned, these ones we are okay. These are the points that we have an issue with and we'd like further conversation on, so that you avoid them, getting agitated and calling for a fresh strike.
For instance, if even the allowance, the COVID allowance that you are talking about, if, for instance, they were even saying that, well, the first one lapsed, can we discuss about
extending
again,
it,
an extra COVID allowance?
Yes.
Specific, another 3 months. You can understand. But when you want to formalize that allowance into a permanent feature of your salary, then you are talking a different language.
Is there a way that they can understand this? Because as you've said it, like now, the way you've said it, Governor, is clear, right? If they say that this is an issue that they have, allowances because of COVID-19, it is clear. But has it been made clear to them?
If you have time, I've been chair of Labour for the last 8 years.
Yep.
And I will tell you, I've sometimes gone through well. So I will invite you one of these days and say you work in the Council of Governors and you just sit in and listen. And you will ask those questions so that you can then go to see what we go through. And when we get out of there, then you get a stigmatization that Council of Governors don't care, they don't do this. And because that medium that is actually saying that is the same medium that can get you out of hell. So you don't have where to go because that medium has already stigmatized you. So where do you go?
I can't imagine that it would be a walk in the park. But here you are at an impasse, right, Governor? You're at an impasse here between yourselves and clinical officers, for example, who are a much needed force in the health services of this country. What you've explained, like I've said, makes sense. But the people who would be in the position to take it from you clearly are not hearing this message. How will they hear it?
You want to hear yourself. You are not, even you yourselves, I'm trying to talk to you people. You are not listening. I want you to listen this, that make a demarcation between those allowances, between working conditions that ensure that our health workers do not become sick, that they don't take this sickness back to their own houses, that they remain healthy. And we all survive this pandemic. Make a distinction between that and anything that is addition that increases your salary, so that then this conversation can make sense. But if you mix the two of them, then the other one, you are hiding another issue in order to support. And then I want you also to go back to basic. Go, because you people are completely ICT compliant. Tell me which country in Africa where you have workers who have gone on strike during the pandemic. And then look at the salary structure of all the countries in Africa, and then look at our salary structures and our allowances and tell us how we compare with those other countries where workers have not gone on strike. Then I will know that you are doing your work.
You've articulated yourself very well, Governor, this morning in terms of this is where you stand, this is how you see the issues, this is how you demarcate the issues, and this is what you'd like the workers to also understand. We have seen the issue of health workers over the last 8 years coming up many times. Like you've said, in 2017, they went on strike for more than 100 days, doctors, more than 150 days, nurses. And they keep cropping up. In fact, even featuring in some cases, in some instances, in issue of the impeachment, for example, it forms part of the grounds for impeachment of a governor. Why do you think the issue of health workers, just one cadre health workers, keeps cropping up in the counties and not the others, not the engineers, not the veterinary doctors, not the other workers in the counties? Why is it that this one group of professionals keeps raising their issues over and over and over again?
Sometimes if you are a cadre and there is a certain level of indispensability, in your work, then you probably feel that the hostage idea then comes in. I'll give you an example right now, and it's going to happen. I'll tell you that where we have reached right now, I advertised for positions for clinical officers and for nurses in Kisii County. I have 3,000 applications for clinical officers, people who do not have work.
Yep.
I have about 4,000 applications for nurses, people who have finished training who don't have work. And then you get a cadre where people go on strike for 5 months. When they finish, they then work out a return to work formula where they say you must pay us for those 5 months. This must stop. And as Kenyans, you must understand where we're coming from. This must completely stop. If they are coming back, let them come back, but those 5 months they were out, they don't get paid. And we want you people in the media to support us.
How would you like us to support you, Your Excellency?
Support us, because if you, for instance, went on strike in Spruce FM and you went on strike for 1 month, and then you came back and told the workers of Spruce FM, if this period I've been on strike, you must pay me when I was not working for 1 month. And you can take it to the bank. They will not pay you.
Okay. Governor, it's interesting that you had mentioned talking about, all right, let's look at other countries on the continent specifically where health workers would have gone on strike during this COVID-19 pandemic era. So in Nigeria, issues of concern that were raised by health workers, they did go on strike. Good pay and poor working conditions were taken into consideration. The government acted. They had spent 20 billion in terms of naira on hazard allowances for healthcare workers and increased that as of the 8th of September 2020. In South Africa, the lives of health workers were endangered due to COVID-19. They complained about inadequate supplies of personal protective equipment. They complained about the danger for workers who are on the front line in the battle against COVID-19. President Cyril Ramaphosa's spokesman, for example, stepped down after being linked to irregular purchases that would have helped these health workers. And the Gauteng provincial health minister was also forced to step down because of allegations linked to the irregular procurement of health supplies. And the allowances then of health workers then had been increased as of September 3rd, 2020. Those are two examples on the continent that you had asked about.
But also around the world, there were strikes.
Around the world, there were strikes in the United States, in Spain, in Greece, Switzerland, France, South Korea, in Sweden. And we're looking at several states around the federal system in the U.S.
I did not say they should not go on strike. I say they should go on strike for areas that relate to their work. I said they can complain. And you're the ones who asked me. I said they can complain even tomorrow.
We agree with you,
sure.
Your Excellency. And as my colleague Eric has put it, you have put forward a very compelling case. But you see, take a look at these issues from our perspective. We speak to people who head the unions of the nurses, clinical officers, and doctors, and they tell us about their plight. Now, it isn't county-specific.
We do not have a problem with the doctors, by the way, so don't bring in the doctors.
Not anymore, but there was.
No, because the doctors, they didn't. There was nothing that was relating to additional. We were very the doctors. It was about their working conditions and so on, and we do not. And they which was logical.
Actually, Your Excellency, I'm not seeking to lay blame or direct blame. I am actually seeking to follow the trajectory of the argument as you have laid it out and just looking at the facts. You see, for people to take the steps that the health workers have taken, I am saying that they must have reasons. Now, it is true that you cannot, and it is wrong to lump everybody together in the same basket and say it is the governors who are doing this. However, these aren't mad people who simply decide because the moon has shone wrongly on their heads and on that particular day they decide they're going to go on strike. They have reasons why they go on strike. And some of these strikes, the issues are cumulative. It didn't happen during COVID. Some of them started even long before COVID. Now, where am I going to? I'm going to this. The discussion that you've had, you said perhaps you'll invite us. I would urge you to invite us because I I'm having difficulties understanding how the argument you've put across to us, which is very convincing, if put across to the leaders of these unions, why they would not understand it.
Okay, let me go back to base.
Right.
And please listen to me. I told you a nursing officer in Job K at the highest level gets a salary of 51,000, gets a house allowance of 21,000, gets a commuter allowance of 5,000, gets an extraneous allowance of 20,000, gets a health risk allowance of 3,850, gets a health service allowance of 20,000, gets a uniform allowance of 10,000, and it comes to about 118. Then I told you, an engineer who has come from the university, who gets into that, or an architect, would take home 51,000, which is and then gets a house allowance of 21 and a commuter allowance of 5,000, and that is all, which is a total of 67,000. When the other one is taking home 118,000. So I was not complaining. I was just giving you a comparative analysis and telling you that this government, both national and county government, we have tried at least as much as we can within the broader context of the affordability criteria and within even the broader context of trying to ensure that we support them much more. So basically what we are doing is we are supporting the health workers much more than we are supporting the other workers, because we recognize the importance of the area of work, because like you can see here, the nurse is probably getting twice what the engineer is getting. But we are not complaining. Okay. And that's what I want you people to listen to. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking, that please listen to us.
We get it.
That even those allowances that we are talking about, and I'm the one who's just said it, if we are dealing with an extra COVID allowance after these 3 months, another COVID allowance, again, so long as you do not institutionalize it, because these are the allowances, it is not even 2017, and now it's not 2018 when this was given. It's just about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. Actually, so just 2 years.
What are we actually saying here? Are we saying that if we again improved now, in the next 2 or 3 years, again people will go on strike?
It's actually you put up a very, very strong case here, Governor, and we thank you very much for that and for articulating the issues very well. Would like, as we conclude this conversation with you this morning, for you to pass 2 messages. One message passed to the health workers, particularly the clinical officers who are listening to you. The second message passed to the citizens, who are the ones who consume the services of these clinical officers. What would you like to tell them? Start with the medical workers.
As for the medical workers, those who work in my own county, they know I meet them. They know I've met all their requirements. They know they work under conditions that have been recommended by the Ministry of Health. And I would urge that all the governors, whoever is listening to me, whichever governor that is listening, let's have the basic minimums. Let's support all our workers. Let's ensure that all the conditions are appropriate. I would kindly request all the workers, the clinical officers, don't take that route. The route of strike and so on, especially during a pandemic, it's not a right thing. Let's negotiate this and let's demarcate the issues between those issues that relate to strictly working conditions and the issues that are long-term. If we do that, then we will not go wrong. As for the Kenyans, whoever is listening to me, I would want to indicate that as governors, we have really tried our best. And I was giving you the example of Kisii County, where I had only about 17 medical officers, doctors, and I now have over 170, and I've taken for master's training over 67 of them, because I want to have specialisms in all these medical areas. And we are also trying to do the same even for the other paramedical cadres, if it's nurses, you want a nurse who has gone for further training in oncology, in dialysis, in all these particular areas. And we can say that in general, there has been a complete improvement of health service across the counties, because if you go to Northeastern, for instance, you now seeing things that were not there. You come to the counties, you are seeing additional beds. In nearly all the counties, in my own county, when I came in, there were only 450 beds. I now have 900 beds. So there have been improvements and increases and so on, but we also work within a very, very tight environment, which we must accept. So sometimes one may sound, or like I could have sounded like I'm being hard or something, but I'm trying to say that the conditions are very difficult, because if for the last 3 months we've not received any resources, and we understand, and we go to the banks to borrow in order to pay salaries, then you are at a situation which is actually, because if I do not again pay these salaries, I would be in trouble. So I am asking fellow Kenyans that please do understand where we are coming from, and talk, because the health workers do not exist in a vacuum. They come from our own houses.
Right.
Please, let's talk to them. I wouldn't be surprised for the three of you who are there that you probably have brothers, sisters, or cousins who work in the health area.
Yes.
Please, let's talk to each other. Let's go through this pandemic. Let's then sit down and talk to each other as Kenyans. Otherwise, I wish everybody a happy New Year. I hope that we are going to manage this pandemic this year, so that we can go back to a normal life.
Asante sana. James Ongwae, Kisii County Governor and Chair of the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors. Thank you very much for joining us this morning and for sharing all those insights with us.
Thank you, my brother and sister.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And I wish your station the best. You've really tried. You've taken that space by Tom.
Asante sana.
Thank you, sir.
Right. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 2 minutes after 8. Good morning.
Spice up your life. .5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, folks using the train this morning, trying to get in and out of the CBD. It's not too crazy today. Traffic is only piled up a little bit on Mombasa Road into the CBD. Is looking pretty good. Coming out to Huru Highway, then on towards the CBD. Coming along slowly, but good as well. Coming into the CBD from Thika Road as well, also looking pretty good as you get to the Pangani underpass. Shouldn't take you too long to do that. Traffic hasn't been so much of a headache just yet. It might pick up in the coming days as things settle down, but it's looking good. Also crossing over and looking at Langata Road, coming into the CBD as well, coming out then towards Bagathi Way, then out towards Valley Road into town, looking good. You're going to get stuck a little bit right around Tomboy if you decide to use that way, coming out through Pangani. Use Wangari Maathai Road though. Take you to the CBD much quicker. All right, Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room the only way to start your day.
Okay, 5 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room, broadcasting from Nairobi to Kisii, to Nakuru, to Eldoret, to Mombasa, to Malindi, to everywhere, even Wajir, where our friend Yegon, I don't know whether he's gone back to Wajir or he's in Matu
or he's on strike.
Or he's on strike.
Remember his card of health worker also.
And then he had gone to Mararal to
Yeah, he did. He sent a message in this morning and was saying, please ask about our situation as well.
Right. And we should have asked that as well. Okay. So thank you very much for tuning in. Now we're going to have a conversation with the people who are threatening to go back on strike because wamerukwa kwa deal. But Siti Muga, before we do that, today's proverb.
You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. Let me repeat it. You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you.
Hey. That's what we were talking about earlier when you were telling the governor. You cannot tell who loves you.
Well, the being specific in a discussion such as this one is like pointing an accusatory finger at someone. And yet, there may be circumstances that have brought about the condition that has brought about the strike that we don't fully understand. That, to me, I think was part of the message that the governor was actually sending to us, saying, look, folks, you seem to only highlight one side of the story, and we, as administrators of the counties, also have our side of the story. Yes.
Yes. I think it's important to hear that, to also hear the issue of separating them. And in fact, even when we spoke to the doctors' union, when we spoke to the clinical officers' union and the nurses' union, we were saying, do you want to deal with issues of your welfare in fighting the pandemic? Or do you want to bring in all the other pending issues as well and roll them over into this and say, this is a perfect opportunity for us to raise those issues again? And say, for example, we got into an agreement with you the last time we went on strike and you have not fulfilled or met all those agreements. And now it's about time that we, have the conversation once again. So all that will keep coming up.
It will. It will. The thing about strikes is that those who go on strike, I do not think are demented people who do not have anything better to do with their lives. So they figure from time to time, let's go on strike. And I also don't think that there are issues that are actually becoming significant at the time they go on strike. I believe the issues that have been pending, they've been there for some time now, they're compounded by other issues, like this one of COVID. So that by the time they're going on strike, especially if they're health workers, my friend, it's not as though they had many other choices to have their, because essentially the strike is to get their plight understood fully and to also to get the seriousness with which they treat the matter understood.
Sure, and in most cases, look, a strike is a last resort.
Yes.
A strike is a last resort, and it means that there have been channels of communication where they have tried to use previously that have not been heard or have not been acted on. And that's why they issue a strike notice. Because they say, look, there's still a window of opportunity for us to have this conversation, and essentially beckoning you and saying, please, let us talk. So by the time this time has lapsed and we still have not had the conversation, we've not reached an agreement, then look, unfortunately, how many times have we had the conversation? They said, we don't want to go on strike.
True. Let's also not forget that unions exist. When you get the upper hand, you want to milk it as much as possible when you
get everything that you can get at that time.
And it's global. You hear, airline workers unions, you hear the miners unions. Margaret Thatcher had to, stamp her foot, because the unions were taking her back to the cleaners, basically.
They were paralyzing the economy, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Because they get to a point where they realize we've got power and they keep pushing. They push. So it's also a reality that unions, in fact, even when we spoke to the CEO of Kenya Airways, he was telling us, look at what the union of pilots has actually been able to get for their members over the last number of years. And what the impact of that on the operations of the airline, the impact of that on how we're able to do our work. A pilot can take off from JKIA and they're going to Dubai, but they will not come back until for 2 days. So you have to accommodate them there because of the kind of deal that they pushed for themselves. So it's also possible that unions will take advantage and they will push and push and push and want to get the most out of.
But Eric, there's a flip side to it. If you look at organizations where workers refuse to join unions, there are such organizations. Why? It is because whatever the union is pushing for, they're getting a better deal.
Anyway.
So they don't really need the union. Now, the truth of the matter is, if the needs that are there were negotiated and met as per the negotiation, do you really think there would be this constant need for whether it's not just health workers, people to go on strike? The answer would be no.
No. And I look at it and I say, you know what? There's a solution to this thing. I understand where that there would be unions over and over who would come and say, well, you know, when you have them by the short and curly, then you say, let's milk it for everything that we can at this point. But there's also a solution to it that, you know what, can we fix this thing once and for all? If you make people comfortable and if you say that there's certain things which are needed and you just show some kind of hand of goodwill, the likelihood of these strikes coming up with the regularity that they
do, the likelihood of the union guys not pushing.
No. That's why I said
beings.
There's that side. But look at the basics that people have been asking for. And why, look, in this country, when you talk about CBAs over and over again, the last CBA, which is about to expire, the factors within that CBA have not even been done.
You know, Eric,
have not even been completed.
Unions don't have an option but to push for the simple reason.
That's why they're there.
That there's this little economic issue that we refer to as inflation, all right? They have to push for their workers to get a deal that enables them to live a life that is reasonable. Yes. Now, if, again, and I say, these discussions were held in honesty and these matters were addressed long before they happened. You see, these matters are addressed when they've reached the nth point, when it's tipping over. Why must it always get to the point where it's tipping over before the issues are brought to the fore? Why?
Let's bring in now the union person, and this is Peterson Wachira. He is the chairperson of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. Peterson, good morning.
Good morning and Happy New Year, and do Latif and Muga.
Happy New Year to you, sir.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's good to hear you and to be here.
Thank you, sir.
So, Peterson, I'm sure you were listening in when Governor Ongwae was on air. And you heard the issues that he said. And he said, well, the issue that we have here is not with everything that was agreed. It's with specific areas which are looking at personal emoluments and contractual terms and agreements going further into the future. The issue of looking at how we can take care of our workers during this pandemic, we are 100% in support. What is your reaction to that?
Thank you. First of all, let me say that I'm very confused. Within the conversation today, I've had us being bastardized, the media being blackmailed, and I think it's the normal script that usually happens in government whenever workers try and advance their grievances, and especially when they are talking about grievances that one of them would actually result in an increment in their allowances or their emoluments. And what they usually do is what you have heard today from the governor. You turn the whole conversation into a monetary issue, you show that the workers do not care, and then you bastardize them, and you set them against the public. So to me, I think it's a very familiar script, and I'm not surprised because that is what happens every time. But I like one thing that the governor kept on saying, and the one that I'm sure that your bank is full today, the facts. The fact is, let us start with the first fact. A multi-agency standing committee was put in place by the CS Labour. That multi-agency committee included all the sectors that were concerned in this country, from the Council of Governors to the Public Service Commission to the Ministry of Public Service to the Federation of Kenya Employers to COTU to ourselves as the unions to Treasury to Ministry of Health. We were written through a letter that said that you must send somebody with the capacity to make decisions. That was sent from the CS Labour. The Council of Governors sent two people and the people have been participating, have been negotiating, and up to and until we made the last agreement. So all the sectors concerned, including SRC, these are sectors that were on the table in the multi-agency up to the time that we finalized this agreement. And so it should not be put forth as something that is alien to the Council of Governors. They shouldn't say that it's what the union has brought forth. It's like the union brought forth the agreement and we forced the CS Health to sign, and then now they cannot be able to take it. I think we must really be sincere. We have signed about 17 issues. The issue of health risk allowance is just one issue. And I wonder, when you say that we can talk about the COVID-19 emergency allowance, which was actually an acceptance that these people have actually a lower risk allowance, and because of the risk they are facing, let us please entice them by giving them something that is a bit commensurate, because that is what the COVID-19 emergency allowance will say. But then, we as clinic officers from 2017, after an agreement that was signed by Governor Ongwae himself on behalf of the county government, they indicated that we were supposed to finish a collective bargaining agreement by February of 2018, which has never been completed today. And the issue of risk allowance has actually been outstanding since 2017. It's not an issue that we have just started. And because we have talked about it, let me give some history about it. The first time the health risk allowance was introduced was in 2012. In 2017, then there was enhancement to it, but only to one cadre, and that is the doctors in their CBA. And we were told, because you do not have a union, by then we didn't have one, we registered on July 2017, please wait when you have a union, we will be able to put it in the CBA because that is what we do. You can also even say that is what happened to doctors. So we had a valid reason to negotiate for the health risk allowance from 2017 under the CBA. Since then, so they were able to enhance the doctors about 400% in 2017, but all of us, all the others, we were actually left out. And we were promised that that will happen within the CBA. So we have been negotiating, and they have refused to do so, and it has been the subject, that together with other things, have been the subject of strike since 2017 to date. And so this is not an issue of COVID alone, and we were actually even asking them. We were not asking for conversion of COVID-19 emergency allowance to be formalized and to be permanent. No, we are saying we do not want COVID-19 emergency allowance. We deal with risk every day. Before COVID-19, I have lost my members to TB, multi-drug resistant TB, which they acquired in the facility because we run 98% of the TB clinics in this country. We have lost members to hepatitis. Because in this CCC TB clinics, this is where you get these people, and also when you are doing some of the procedures that involve this. And so we were telling them that this is something that we had agreed upon, that when we are doing a CBA, it's when you are going to enhance, because you must also look at the fairness and equity. Because you cannot enhance for one cadre, of which you have had Governor Ongwae say very well, they have no problem with them, because of course they enhanced theirs in 2017, and that is why they were not asking for enhancement. And now he's using selective information to be able to mislead us.
But
out of that, you can see from their letter, they're also saying that they do not have money to implement the group life insurance cover.
Yep.
So simply what they are telling us is that please go back to work, and but if you die, please do not ask us for compensation to your family, because we cannot actually be able to afford. I even wonder how somebody can be able to come in the public and justify that.
So I think, how would you respond to the issue of separating welfare during COVID-19 as, you know, the reason why you're going on strike during COVID-19, and the other pending conversations. So if you had already started having conversations with the Council of Governors or the individual governors in 2018, and you were still in the middle of those conversations, 2018, 2019, you still haven't gotten to a point of signing that CBA, separate that. So that when you come back out of this, you'll be able to say, look, we still have our pending matter here from 2018 about our CBA that had specific issues, and we need to continue that conversation. But for now, the emergency here is COVID-19, isolation wards, COVID-19, allowance during COVID-19, COVID-19, enhanced medical cover during COVID-19, COVID-19, what is it that happens if I die during COVID-19, the life cover. How would you respond to that? Because he's saying you guys were not you started now mixing those issues with previous issues, with future issues, and the current emergency issues.
Okay. I think, as you have said, most of the issues rotate around a safe working environment. Risk allowance is one of the contributors to that. As I have said before, and I think it is in public domain, we have even seen kids come out and flag out some of the masks that we actually collected from Kisumu facilities, and they were actually found to be fake, and that they couldn't protect anyone. Most of the time, we have not been provided with the right mask, with the eye protection and such, and we have had to buy our own N95. So for us to be able to do that, we are paid a risk allowance of 3,000, of which we are saying that is the allowance that should actually be able to then help you when they cannot be able to supply you with the PPE. Because I think we have reached a point where we are almost coming to terms with the fact that probably the government wants to be able to provide adequate PPE. And we have been purchasing for ourselves. And so that is why the need for enhancing now this risk allowance was coming forth, and it was becoming a matter of safety during the pandemic because we needed to use this money to be able to purchase our PPE when they are not able to supply, because we cannot sit and say, because the government is not able, then let me get infected and infect my family or probably die, when you actually even know that you do not have that comprehensive insurance to be able to cater for you once you get infected.
Peterson,
so
I have to ask
that
you.
Is what we had many other demands, but we chose to bring in the health risk allowance because it's something that is very relevant and that is going to assist us during this pandemic.
Peterson, is this across board? Are we looking at all corners of this country? Because this is another thing that the governor said, that, it's not everybody who's having... He said, give me the numbers of people per county who don't have these requirements that you're talking about, who don't have the allowances, who don't have the cover, who don't have one to the other. It would seem that there will be a few people in certain counties, and then now this is being generalized. Is that the case?
No, that is not the case. I think the issue of PPE is cross-cutting. And I have said the biggest problem we are having is the disconnect and the disconnect in communication. Number one, most of the time the governors will talk about, when they talk about PPE, they are referring to a surgical mask. If you go to Kisumu today and go to a dispensary or a health center where probably you may get a few locum or contracted staff working, you'll find them wearing a surgical mask, not even with eye protection. When you go to the guidelines on rational use of PPE developed by the Ministry of Health, it will tell you that you are supposed to be having at least, if you are working in a consultation room, because you are going to meet people who are going to have respiratory symptoms, and probably you might get somebody you need to nebulize, which is an aerosol generating procedure. That is, it produces some very minute droplets that can remain suspended in air for even up to 8 hours. That at least you need an N95 and eye protection in terms of goggles and face shields. And because you are told to go out there and find the facts, please go to those facilities and be able to see what the people are using. That is where the disconnect is. That is the PPE they refer to. For us, that is not the right PPE. and the N95 is not available down to the dispensary, to the health center, to the sub-county. What we have is in the isolation facilities and mostly around the level 5 facility.
Peterson, at some point when we spoke to you a few weeks ago, you said that, look, even if they were ready to have a discussion with us, even if they were ready to say, look, we cannot do this, but this we can do. So now what I'm doing here today is I'm standing in as mediator. And I'm saying, what we've heard from the governor is that, look, if you come to us and say we need an extra allowance for an extra 3 to 6 months because of COVID, then that would be able to listen and we'd be able to say, okay, let's see what we can do about that. You on your side, Peterson, you've said, look, tell us what you can do. We can come and say if we are able to accept this, and we would be willing if you would only just speak to us. Is that still the case?
Let me say first that the principals in the Council of Governors have not been available. We have tried to look for them. They have not been available for us. The people they have sent on the table, we have been negotiating and negotiating with goodwill. At no point did I see the people that they sent say that on this and this issue, then we need to have a different conversation. It is something that was agreed mutually among all the players within the multi-agency, majority of whom are government departments that are concerned with those issues. I think I said some time back that the chairman of the Council of Governors, His Excellency Oparanya, sometimes said that, come, let's reason together. And we responded and said, we are very ready to come and listen. The problem is that we are not accessible. And they are not even accessible to date because we have been trying to look for them. And if they are listening, they are ready to sit and be able to talk. But I think we should be able to be sincere. We should not wait until the process is over. Then we start raising issues on some of the issues where the people you send with full confidence that they can be able to make decisions that they came and made on the table. And of course, we know that they are brave. We also do know that they were also aware of our signing, and there was a conversation prior between them and the CS head, and they gave their go-ahead for us to be able to do this. So this is an afterthought that we actually do not understand, because to us it's appearing like there are some politics that are being used and that they are being played here with whatever we have been able to do. And that is why there was an afterthought for them to be able to come out and decline this.
There are 3 issues that they've raised and in their objection. And they say this is after you met and after you signed the return to work agreement with the CS for Health. And then they held a full council meeting on Monday, after which they raised those 3 issues. Number 1, that risk allowance, that rising to about 650%. The second issue is the issue of putting everybody who is on a contract basing into permanent and pensionable. And the third issue is the life cover. Those 3 issues become the deal breaker for you. Out of the 18 points that you sat and agreed, including, and I'm looking at them, one of them is that stalled CBA agreement. They have no issue with saying, yeah, let's have the CBA agreement actually concluded by the end of February this year, because that's one of the things that you agreed on. Do those 3 things then become now the deal breaker, and you say, if you cannot give us these particular 3 issues, then we can throw away the baby with the bathwater?
Let me say that number 1 about deal breaker is that already the deal was made. So it was to be broken before it was made. And it was made in their full knowledge. When they talk about, I know, by the way, let me say this. I know the biggest contention is not even the risk allowance. The biggest contention that we are not telling Kenyans is the contractual employment. What has happened in this country is that the employment policy has been abused completely. We are having so many of us, especially the health workers, who are being employed under very, very poor terms. You have some of our colleagues employed under the hospitals within the county, with very meager salaries that are actually sometimes a third of what we are earning. And I know you have been made to think that we earn a lot. We do not even earn 50% of what our equivalent in South Africa actually earns in Kenya, because the work we do and the pay is comparative depending on the environment, the profession you work in, and so many other factors. And so you cannot tell us that we are supposed to pay our governor less because our governor in Kenya actually earns more than a president in Somalia. That is a conversation that probably cannot happen. But let me say this, that contractual employment that we have in Kenya is illegal, and it's irregular, it's immoral, and it's exploitative. And why am I saying this? And this is not an emotional statement. It's a very objective statement. In this way, we have laws that govern employment in Kenya. When it comes to contracts, we have an Employment Act of Kenya, and we have the Constitution that guides this. And it says, and also the Public Service Commission Act of 2017. Starting with the Public Service Commission Act of 2017, there is a section 45 that talks about, in the government, what are the requirements for you to be able to engage somebody on a contract? And the very last requirement, it says is, the person you are engaging must not be eligible to be employed under any other term. Not you yourself as the employer, who is the government, but the person you are engaging. And the only other terms of engagement is permanent and pensionable. So you need to justify why that person who is 25 years old, you cannot be able to engage them on permanent and pensionable, and they qualify. So on that, number one, it's illegal. Number two, Employment Act Section 5 talks about what is this discrimination at the workplace. And it says, if you have two workers who are performing work of equal value, but then you pay them differently, that is discrimination at the workplace. We have these contracted guys we are talking about. We are working with them. We are in the same rota. I do my shifts, I finish, he enters, we exchange like that. So our work, our qualification is of equal value, but they are paid a that of what I earn. In law and the Employment Act, and you can be able to check, Section 5, that is discrimination at the workplace. The Constitution of Kenya talks about, under Article 27, that no Kenyan should be discriminated by the state or by anybody else. And if that discrimination arises, the government must take action to address it. When you come to Employment Act, it says that in the first instance, the employer will ensure that there is no discrimination at the workplace. If the employer fails, then it goes to the labor officer. When the labor officer fails, it goes to the labor commissioner. When the labor commissioner fails, it goes to the CS labor. They have mandate and power to be able to address this. And this is what we were able to present to the table. We were able to explain, and they realized that actually what is being done is irregular, and that is why it is being corrected. The CS Health cannot sign something that they know is out of this world. And because this is rampant under the county, because they have so many employees they have employed under this contract, and they know what it will mean to be able to convert them, that is the biggest problem we are having in the room, because they do not actually want to regularize this employment to ensure that they comply with a prevailing law about employment and contracts, and that is why you are seeing the whole conversation now coming back. And I think there's something that I call the wisdom of the peasant farmer. When I was becoming a clinic officer, there is a friend of our family who is a peasant farmer, and he told me two things. He told me, number one, when you go to work and you'll be helping people, do not look at the money. Look at the impact you are going to have on those people, and you'll be blessed. Number two, when you are in position of power and you are able to influence something that is policy, something that will be able to carry on into generations to come and into future, please do it as you would like to be done to your son, because one day the policies you put in place will affect your family, your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren. By the time you'll be old and out of office and powerless, and you'll not be able to help them. But you will remember that I am the one who came and put in these exploitative policies, and even my kids and other people's kids are actually suffering because of this. And I think it's only moral for us to be able to address some of the things that you can be able to see. They are very logical, they are very legal. Where we are doing irregularities, to be able to be sincere enough and to have humility to say that we accept that this is a mistake that has been happening. Let us agree on how we are going to correct it. And we are not disagreeable to the fact that we can be able to transition them over a period. And even when it comes to the risk allowance, we didn't actually give it a time frame to start immediately. It's something that is supposed to start in future.
It can be implemented later.
That we are going to domesticate in the CBA.
Let's take a break at this point, Peterson, and then when we come back, we want to open the phone lines so that we hear what the public thinks. So you're saying you want to go back on strike as soon as tomorrow because of what the Council of Governors has said. The Council of Governors has written back and said some of the things that are contained in this agreement may not be tenable. They'll be too expensive, and we know very well right now, you national government don't have money, you're not sending us money. So even if you commit us to this, we'll not be able to meet this demand. So what is the way forward? And we want to ask the people, should the clinical officers go back on strike because of this? Or should there be another way of addressing this particular issue? 24 minutes to 9 o'clock. Time for us to take a break. Let's see what's happening, weather and traffic. And then we come back with a conversation with Peterson Washira and you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice.
Maritime Tips brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for boat owners, crew and passengers. Keep a distance of 2 meters between each other. Put on your masks. Sanitize your hands. Practice coughing and sneezing etiquette. Disinfect life jackets regularly. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels, such as steering wheel, safety and guardrails, and seats. Provide disposal bins with lids on board boats and vessels. Limit passenger capacity to 50%. Do not overload your vessel. Observe government curfew times. Stay home if you have flu-like symptoms. Stay safe. Stop spread of coronavirus. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be.
Just to be very honest with each other here, not all of us are going to get tall, dark, and handsome. Not all of us are going to get 0.5s or chotaras. Some of us have to learn the short guys. Some of us have to learn those pot-bellied people. Some of us have to learn older men or younger men.
Spice.
Don't ask your partner if he or she enjoyed it. I think the approach should always be, if she's enjoyed the journey, she will let you know. She'll tell you, hey, maze, your bus is big. Mimi sijaipanda basi kubwa kama hii. Juu hata hii basi, hiyo mafuta tulieka yote, imetuleta hapa vizuri. Hii basi iko na nguvu. Hii basi iko na nguvu.
Spice.
Now into a relationship, it becomes like you've stopped your life, and then now me, I am your life. You see, like, what happened to your life? What happened to you? What did you used to do?
And women are guilty about that. No,
is your wife listening to this show?
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind.
All right,
the weather
with in Nairobi, 18 degrees at the moment. We'll go to highs of 26 today, down to lows of 16. It's mostly sunny in Nakuru at 17, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Chance of rain, but much later in the day. Sunny conditions going to rule the day in Nyeri today, 16 degrees at the moment, going to highs of 24, coming down to lows of 10. It's 11 in Eldoret, and sunny conditions all through. Highs of 24 today, and then coming down to lows of 11. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 20. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 19. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega. We'll see a high of 30 there today, and then lows of 14. Mombasa today is mostly sunny. 24, going to highs of 31. We'll see highs of 28 in Malindi. Mostly sunny conditions through and through at 21 at the moment. It's 22 in Kampala, stepping out of Kenya. Light rain this morning still continues to come down. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19. It's also raining in Dar es Salaam at 28 degrees, highs of 31 and lows of 26. We're looking at sunny conditions in Johannesburg this morning at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Light rain in Lagos this morning at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24 through the city. It's mostly sunny in Kinshasa this morning at 23. 90% chance of rain today. Highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Spice FM. Nyeri. Traffic.
Okay, it's unbelievable for most folks this morning because Mombasa Road is flowing very, very smoothly. Not too bad. Past Cabanas all the way down through to General Motors, out then towards the Nyeri roundabouts. Looking pretty good, guys. You're not going to get stuck anywhere, at least not now. Where you're going to see a little bit of hold up is then around Pangani as you headed into the CBD from Thika Road. But it's looking good, guys. Langata Road looking fantastic. The eastern and southern bypass is like a dream if you're going on holiday. But we know that's not happening because everybody's just come back. So we'll see what happens in a couple of days in terms of traffic. Mombasa is looking good. We're looking at that. All ferries are up and working. The floating bridge is also working for folks getting in and out of where they're going today. Traffic in and out of Nakuru also looking pretty good. Let's take a look at how that may change later. Get stuck somewhere, do let us know, though I doubt that's happening today. Spice FM KE, that's how you can get to us on Twitter. Text as well, 40127.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Clinical officers are saying they are ready to go back on strike tomorrow because the Council of Governors is objecting to some of the agreements that were reached in a return to work formula signed between the Clinical Officers Union and the Ministry of Health. It was also supposed to have been signed by the Council of Governors representative, that's the chairman, Wycliffe Oparanya, and the chairman of the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors, James Ongwae, the Kisii governor, whom we were speaking to in the 7 o'clock hour. Now, we have online with us the chairman of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, Peterson Washira, and we are also asking you now to join the conversation and give your feedback to the two sides. This is the government and the medical workers. Do you support the new push to go back on strike by the clinical officers? 0719-012-600 or Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube and Twitter.
Peterson, we listened to His Excellency Governor Ongwae at great length, and not only was he convincing, but he also sounded very, very sincere. Now, would you say that the problems that we are talking about are mirrored right across each and every county in the country? Or would you say that there are some counties that don't quite have the same problem or have tried to resolve some of the problems? And if so, which are these counties and how many are there? And if not, then what would you say is the possible way forward? Because from your point of view, it's like nothing that has been discussed or talked about has been met. And yet, here we are with the strike that is looming. Here we are with COVID that is with us. What do we do?
I think, first of all, is that we will not be going on a new strike. The strike was supposed to be called off by the agreement. Mm-hmm. So if the agreement is not in force, then the strike is in force. Because the agreement is the one that was calling off the strike. So as for now, our strike is still in force. It's only that we are working and we have given them time to be able to discuss with the ministry and with the Ministry of Labour, because by then the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Labour, they have no problem whatsoever with it. I would not understand why the Council of Governors would have a problem, while we actually do know that even that money is supposed to come from the Treasury and not from the county Treasury. So, and that is why I'm saying there are issues that they are not sincere. There are issues they are not actually telling us.
Peterson, the county,
yes.
the county is the employer of clinical officers, right? So
Yes.
they are the ones who are given the mandate then to hire, pay, etc., isn't it? So when they say, for example, that currently, because we talked about if we're looking at 100%, he said 60 to 70% of these are administrative issues with which they can take care of. 30 to 40% are critical financial issues for which they just don't have the funds for right now. Regardless of whether it is coming in from National Treasury into their accounts, it is them who then have the mandate to pay out. Regardless of where the money is coming from, they are the ones who are the employer. Now, if the employer is saying that they're not able to afford this at this time, and it's not them generating these funds, it comes from national government. They have not received funds for 3 months, for example. How they've been able to pay their workers and such, is something that they can't even go into now in terms of discussion. How do we get around this? If they're saying, look, we don't have the money, we are not able to afford this, regardless of where any funds would come from, how do we get over this one particularly?
I think number one, we have not signed for any allowance to start immediately.
Okay.
Are we being told that this country will be, the income will be low forever? That there will be budgetary constraints forever? Number two, I think when we talk about issues being county and national, I will refer you back to the chairman of Council of Governors. At some point, he came out and said that a good number of issues that are being raised here, it's only the national government that can be able to sort this. We even do not have the capacity. You remember, I can't remember the exact date, but it was actually on their official social media channels, and I think they did a press statement on the state that it's the national government that can actually be able to end this impasse in response to, I think, the Senate and National Assembly, and they said the national government should help us to be able to do this. Now, the national government has come out and did what they wanted. They have come out, they have helped them to be able to unlock the deadlock, and they have no problem. And they're the ones that are going to provide the money when the time comes, because it's not immediate. Then, when that happens, then they go back and say, no, we are the ones who are the employers. Even if now you are doing this, we cannot be able to accept this. I wonder why we don't see insincerity in this, because it's very clear. If you look at the conversation that they have been having, health risk allowance cuts across the countries and the national government. Comprehensive insurance cuts across. Group life cuts across. When we talk about PPE, it cuts across. And many other things. When we talk about irregular contractual employment, they cut across, including the national government.
Peterson, are you saying that there are no counties in this country that have actually met some of these basic requirements that your union has put forward?
For some of them, the account is like promotions. The account is that have actually promoted. I would agree with that. Apart from promotions, when it comes to issue like of contracts, it cuts across. Actually, it's hard for me to be able to tease out the things that some counties have been able to do, because most of the issues are issues that have actually not been met. And I'm saying this knowing that I sit where we receive this information from the counties, and also noting that over the past 13 years, we've had over 103 strike notices based on human resource management issues.
See, there are 2 points of view here. Over time, we've also seen, since devolution, health workers in certain counties going on strike, while others have not gone on strike. And when we listen to His Excellency Governor Ngwae, he was very adamant on this point that we seem to lump everything together without being specific as to the issues we're dealing with, and probably the counties within which these issues lie. And that is why I'm putting this question to you, and I'm asking it this way. Are you saying that there are absolutely no counties that have met some of these issues that you have put across? I'm very specific about my question.
Yes. There are counties that have met some of the issues that we have put forth. But then, when you have demands, and these are not demands that were issued today and people went on strike the next day, then it means that for the issues that you have been able to do, you will sit down, give them out, and for the others you negotiate and get a way forward on how to work on them. This did not happen, and they themselves said that it's only the national government that can help. That is what informed the constitution of multi-agency, that they also came together, not county-specific, but as the Council of Governors representing everybody else, to be able to look at these issues. So yes, there are some counties that may have actually done with one or two issues, but they have not been able to do the other probably 15 issues. That does not mean that those counties do not have a problem, because all the issues on the table must be addressed.
Peterson, sorry, Ndu. Would you agree with some of the statistics and facts that were given here by Governor Ongwae, that in your job group, you are earning at the end of the day more than your comrades in the same job group but in other professions?
Yes, as I said, actually that may be true. I have not personally done a comparative study, but how can you compare me with somebody with another profession? If you are doing a comparison in terms of salary, if you look at the International Labour Organization or our policy on professions, there is a categorization of professions. And they are categorized because comparing one with the other, it may give you a problem. You can only be able to compare equals, and equals in terms of functions and diversity.
But I can also imagine, Peterson, sorry to interject.
The other one is a political.
I can also imagine that that's one of the reasons why you have job groups. So you are putting people in the same job group because you are putting them in the same sort of band or category. And saying, so if somebody is in job group K and the basic salary is the same, then the allowances are what now will start setting you apart. But when to get to a point where allowances will say that one person in the same job group takes home 67,000 shillings and another person in the same job group is taking home double that, and the person who's taking home double that is the one who's still asking for more, do you think that now sets you apart as A, you are being very selfish in your push, and B, you are being unreasonable in terms of understanding where your employer is coming from?
Yeah, number one, it's not double. Number two, the allowances that we have, as I have said, it's because of the diversity and because of the environment we work under. The allowances that have been awarded with the go-ahead of SRC, having seen the justification and, of course, given them from the commission that looks at the remuneration in this country, and, of course, able to do the comparative study across the board, because they have also done job evaluation. And that is why you cannot, and as I said, we have a governor in Kenya, actually, I have seen some writers, I don't know if they are correct, saying that a governor in Kenya actually earns more than the president of Somalia. So can we say that then the governor in Kenya is overpaid? I think these are things that if you have them to do a comparative study that is very objective, then it's something that you must refer to job evaluation, you must go to classification of professions, you must look at all the diversity, you compare the variables, and then it's from the variables that you can actually be able to do that. Because as you have said, the job group is the same and the basic is the same. What sets us aside is the allowances. And allowances have been informed by something. The government has sat. Whoever advises the government has also sat and said 1, 2, 3, these people deserve this because of this reason.
So here we are, Peterson. with all this, with what you've said to us in this information, with what we know is coming from Council of Governors, who seem to be that last kink in being able to get this sorted out. So there are both things that have been put on the table. How are we going to get to the place where all of this is put together? What needs to happen from your point of view?
I think what needs to happen is, number one, let us be sincere with Kenyans and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Let us accept that this is an afterthought from the Council of Governors. Let them come to the table. Let us come to the table and see where is the problem and how can we be able to solve the problem. Not by postponing the problem, but by seeing how best we can be able to correct the iniquities and the illegalities and irregularities that we have over time. We have actually told them that we are even ready to do this in a phased manner so that we can be able to give it time within which the economy will even be able to recover, because we also understand the conversion of contractual, it's not something that can happen in a day. It requires budgetary allocation. It's something that can actually be done in phases. And these are things that we can agree if they were available to come to the table and we can be able to talk. Okay. But what they have chosen the high road. That is, either you take our position, or then we are going to kick you out of work, and of course, and you see sometimes the governor of Kisumu is in the process of dismissing clinic officers and nurses. In the same letter that he wrote, he admits that he doesn't have group life cover to be able to compensate them if they die, and he doesn't have the capacity to do that. If that is not ironical, if that is not insincere, then please give me the meaning or the definition of insincerity. Because you are saying, I admit your working environment is not actually safe, because if you do not have some of those prerequisites, it means the working environment presents a hazard to you. That I will be very anxious if I'm working in Kisumu County, because anytime I can actually get infected, and in case I die, then my family is going to live in destitution.
Okay.
And then
I think let's just come
if
to.
you do not go back to work, I'm going to sack you.
Peterson, let's come to the main part of Ndu's question, which is, tomorrow you have said nothing else, strike continues. What needs to happen so that you don't go on strike? We have heard from the governors, we have seen the return to work formula that you've signed, and here you are. What needs to happen so that you do not go back on strike, so that your members are taken care of, and so that the citizens who need the services in hospitals are catered for?
So what the governors need to do is to sign the agreement. The agreement does not give an immediate timeline to be able to effect this. But for group life cover, I will tell you that this is something that we cannot discuss about. It's something that must be there. For the other issues, I think even in the agreement, you can see that they do not have an immediate timeline, because it's something that we are supposed to agree on how to implement it going forward, probably for the next financial year. And even on contract, it's something that we have to agree on how we are going to transition them. So it's not an end to itself once we execute, and if you have seen the document, I'm sure you have read that. It's something that we still have to come to the table and agree that over this period, this is what we are going to do to be able to correct this. So I would say, let us be sincere, let us finish the documents, go back to normalcy, be able to agree on how we can be able to implement this, and most of all, let His Excellency, the Chairman, Labour Committee, Council of Governors, and His Excellency, the Chairman, Council of Governors, be available so that we can come to the table and be able to discuss. Okay. Because the Health Ministry already signed, because they were able to understand what I'm saying, But because they were not themselves as principals on the table, that is probably why there is this disconnect. But if we can be able to come together and discuss, there is actually nothing here that is too huge that we cannot actually be able to get an understanding, and then we can be able to move forward.
Peterson, thank you very much. Peterson Oshira is the National Chairman of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. Thank you for speaking to us this morning. And of course, we'll be getting back in touch with you in a couple of days' time to see whether your issues have been resolved, whether those who seek medical services across the country can find clinical officers in health facilities.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for this important conversation and other conversations that we listen to every day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Asante
Peterson.
sana.
Thank you, Peterson.
Have a happy new year.
Happy New Year to you too.
This is the Situation Room. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
And there's not much of it this morning. Mombasa Road is looking pretty good, headed into the CBD, and that's coming from all places. Aerodrome Road, and then heading out towards Uhuru Highway, out into the CBD, looking pretty good. Let's look at Jogo Road. It's built up a little bit as you then connect to the City Stadium roundabout, out towards Landis Road and into the CBD, or then the other direction towards industrial area. Not too bad this morning, guys. Looking pretty easy to get through. Looking at other parts, we're looking through to Westlands, coming to CBD, looking good. Outbound also onto Akiwe, it's looking great. That's what it is, looking good this morning. Traffic. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room on Spice FM this and every weekday morning. All right, as we begin this hour, what is today's proverb, CT?
You know who you love, however, but you can't know who loves you.
It's true.
Okay, you know who you love.
That one you know.
But however,
as we said
previously.
As we said
later
on.
You do not know who loves you.
Not really.
Okay.
A bit difficult.
Okay. So, 4th of January was that date that we were thinking about last year. Oh, the government has ordered that schools be opened on the 4th of January. Is the government going to be ready? Are they going to have done all the desks? Are they going to have ensured that the extra teachers have been hired? Are they going to ensure that everybody then is able to afford face masks? And those who can't afford face masks, are they going to have access to those face masks? What happens in terms of social distancing in schools? Are kids really going to be able to wear face masks and observe social distance? Are people going to be able to afford paying school fees? What's going to happen to our candidates? Will they be okay to just sit an exam in 3 months' time? What happens to the academic year? All that was up in the air. Then 4th happened. Kids went back to school. We are where we are. We have seen the coverage and reports coming from across the country on what happened on day 1 of going back to school. Kids went back to school. The schools that then came up with, a staggered reopening schedule and saying this class come on this date and this one come on this date, basically just so they're able to handle and adjust themselves to the new measures that the schools have put in place. where we are. We have seen there are schools that submerged, and we've seen provincial administration officials. Okay, not provincial. We've seen the national government administration officials and the county officials and education officials working in those communities and having conversations on, okay, so where are we going to move the children? Some have moved to, outdoor facilities and using classroom, having classrooms outdoors. So we have seen all these things. What is the experience so far of those that have taken their children back to school? And what is the experience so far of the teachers who have actually gone back to school and they're now dealing with the learners? What is the experience so far of the communities? And the kids have gone back to school, and we know that this school in our area was vandalized. This school in our area, we ate the cows.
That happened. It actually happened. Yeah.
We slaughtered and ate the cow that could have been given the kids some milk for tea. But where we are right now. So we'd like to hear the experience. 0719-012-600. And also there's something that CTU had said earlier. With all those, things that we're talking about up in the air, can kids really observe social distance? So kids have gone back to school, and we see they're very happy going back to school. And we are now at a point where we are talking about school fees. Can you afford school fees? Should headmasters send the children home? What happens to the boards of management? And have they received money that was supposed to have been dispersed from the National Treasury by the end of the week? Are the boards able to hire the teachers that are employed by boards? All those things, then what do we do? Because we're where we are, like you said, City. This is it.
The thing is, there are times when you have to adjust your thinking to the reality of the situation. Because when it hits you, you will lament. That's also a response. You'll be overwhelmed. That's also, and you will probably react appropriately. There are many issues that no one can say they were prepared to handle, and that's what we find ourselves. That's the situation we find ourselves in. Now that we are there, and it's also evident that this situation is not going to end soon. Right. We also know the government doesn't have money. We also know that if the government doesn't have money, it means the counties will not have money. We also know that those who are employed by the government will also have issues with money, salaries, etc., etc.
Right.
Which means even those teachers who are in schools may have issues with salaries at some point. Schools may have issues with monies with which to administer and to run the schools. Now, that being the situation, we have to ask this all-important question. These are the facts. What then do we do? And we here is everybody.
Collective.
If you are in a board of management, if you are the teacher, if you are the head teacher, if you are in the PTA, if you are, it's a school in the neighborhood, if that is where you are and you have children who go to school or children who went to that school, this is a situation where the Harambee spirit that we used to have actually has to come in. Because children have to go to school, they have to learn. There's been an environment within which the work of the teachers has to have the impact that is desired, COVID notwithstanding. Welfare of the teachers has to be looked into. What do we do? Let us focus our minds single-mindedly on the things that need to be done. Even as we look at all the experiences that we're going through, the things that are happening, what do we need to do? Because that is what I believe the focus should be.
Sure, I think we're in a classic situation whereby with what you have and what is presented before you, then what do you do? It would be nice to make wishes about certain things, but we can't do that. We can't live in a fantasy land because, again, here we are, been thrown into the deep end, whatever that is. So you don't want to sink. It's either you float, you swim, you get to your destination at the end of the day. The decision is not going to be repealed. They're not going to close schools now. It's not going to happen.
No.
Right? So there are... If you look at the three categories of issues that you would face with schools having reopened, Number one, capacity to be able to handle the children that have come in as a result of, a greater exodus from other schools, right? Dealing with COVID-19 measures and all of that, social distancing, hand washing, this and the other. And then school fees, payment or non-payment in this case by very many parents who are not able to make the payment while understanding that education is a right of their child. And also the schools on their part who need this money to be able to function. But with what we have, what can we do? And you're going to say to yourself, okay, as school management, can you take a quarter of the fees with regularity? Can you take half? Take it, as opposed to nothing, as opposed to a situation whereby a child will be left at home. For parents, you can't afford the full amount. Can you have a conversation? Can you get a little bit and take it to school and say, here, I'm committed, but I don't have it? Because that's what we're doing, right? We're being practical. We're not going to sit and say, okay, well, I'd like to send my child to school, but they're not going to be allowed to go to school tomorrow. What can you do? Can you borrow it? Can you ask for help? The Harambee spirit that you talked about, can you talk to 10 of the people in your circles and say, can you help me out in this case? Because nitty-gritty, that's what we're getting down to here. Children need to go back to school. They've been out of school for a year. They need to go back. So it would be nice to have all these lofty ambitions and say, well, I can handle it. You can't. There are very many parents right now who cannot handle it.
Yeah.
Are there schools who need to maybe take lending facilities right now to be able to run and then be able to get things back when parents are back on their feet? Do it. Do it. Do it. Otherwise, we'll have children at home and we'll have empty schools.
I think what you're saying, basically, and it makes a lot of sense, it's let's separate, just like Governor Ongwae was telling us, let's separate issues. So first of all, separate children from a conversation of this nature, and now let's talk as adults. Adults, we are talking about the parents, the teachers, the management, the other cadre of workers in these learning institutions. So if you brought all those parents together and said, so what are the main issues that stick out here? Number one, there's the issue of we have to put in measures to fight COVID-19. One, social distancing. Social distancing means that because you don't have new classrooms, we have to find ways in which we can accommodate learning of children while they observe some sort of physical distance apart. Okay, that's one. Two, if you talk about social distancing and saying, okay, so in this classroom, it could take 40 or 60. Now we're going to reduce them to 30. You are saying that you're dividing this class into two, which means that you need an extra teacher. So what does that, how do we go about that? There is the issue of masks. There are those that can afford masks, there are those that cannot afford masks. There's the issue of water. Is there water in the school? Is there no water in the school? What can we do to have water in the school? There's the issue of, so some are going to learn under the trees. As they learn under those trees, are we able to actually move a blackboard outside? So what do we do to make sure that a teacher is facilitated so that they can teach under that environment? Blackboard and desks and extra chairs, and so government was supposed to bring X, but we don't have enough. So what do we do about that? Let's look at feeding. Feeding is a very, very critical part, especially in primary schools across the country, because for very many families and children, this is where they get their nutrition. So if we talk about feeding and then we are not able to buy food, and what do we do about that? What do we do about dormitories for those that are in boarding? And you're talking about also decongesting the dormitories. If BOM, PTA, teachers, administration, other workers just sat together as a community and said, okay, so these are the issues. What can we do? That same Harambee spirit that you're talking about, CT, would come in. So can we prioritize? Can we say, okay, I can do A, B, C, D. We can put together some money that can support in this, that can support the BOM to hire some 1 or 2 teachers. And then these teachers can say, all right, I'm going to come in. I don't have a job. I was getting paid this amount of money before COVID. I'm going to accept to come back here and work for this amount, less. Can we say that we can then buy food? Can we talk to a supplier? Can we talk to financial institutions that can lend us? I think this is where now that Harambee spirit and the concerted effort of the communities comes in. Because we cannot be sitting back there and saying, oh, the government has not. Sasa watoto wetu wanaenda shule, sasa serikali inataka tufanye nini?
I mean, just look at something practical like because we saw the pictures, right? Look at pictures of students outside learning. Under the sun, there's that, just what you're talking about now, is there something that can 100 parents get together and contribute 50 shillings to erect a canopy over them? They must, because look, they're learning outside because their school has been waterlogged.
Yep.
The school is underwater. So they are now on dry land, but they're in the sun. So with what we have, what can we do? Look, as primitive and as backward as you want to make it look and sound, this is what's happening. This is a situation on the ground. They're not outside because there's a choice.
Can we put up a mud classroom?
Can we?
But
Quickly.
it would work.
It would work. Can we put a canopy over that
Most
structure?
classes
Because there's a structure there.
Most
Most
schools
schools began like
began
that.
that way.
The mud walls.
But even more importantly, this is where now our local leaders, beginning with the MCAs and chiefs, this is where they have to play their role because they know the citizens of this country who come from their regions. They know those who are in positions to help. This is where now they have to mobilize everyone within their reach to say, look, we have these problems. In the area you come from, there are these number of schools in your ward, okay? You people, they know these individuals. After all, that's where they come from.
Right.
We need help. And this is what we'd like you to do. Support the boards of those schools in doing ABCD. Because this is an emergency. It's not something that we have the leisure of simply saying, let's do it next year. No. Students have to learn now. Schools are incapacitated. Parents are incapacitated. So this one, forget. It doesn't have to do with whether your children go to that school. Those who live in those rural areas have their work cut out for them. But those who no longer live there but come from there also have their work cut out for them. This is that time. And this isn't the time of Serikali's idea. No. Serikali, as I mentioned in the not too distant past, inahitaji usaidizi.
Serikali's idea.
Yes, we have to. After all, it's our government, isn't it?
Yep.
And if it's our government, they don't have to shout it and say, look,
we need help.
No, you can see.
You can clearly see for yourself.
That help is needed here.
You can see for yourself. When the government says we are going to, come up with desks, and you see how long it's even taking to pay those people who have been contracted to make the desk. And the desk, we know, are not going to be enough. It tells you something. When the government says we're going to disburse this amount of money at least by Monday, alafu hiyo ingine mngojea kidogo nikusanye, by the end of the week nitatuma hiyo ingine, that tells you something. That the money, they don't have that money. We must rally together as a people and say, all right, so what is it that we can do?
Because it's
our
that
children,
time, really. It's
the
that
children
time.
are ours.
It's that time.
We've got to go and take our children back to school. They have stayed at home, yes, for long. We have been complaining and saying, why are you opening the schools? As we're going to expose our kids to COVID. Can they observe social distancing? Can they wear masks? What role can we play? If you want to convince me, and I am completely not convinced, that your children stayed at home for those 10 months and they were able to observe social distance, they were able to wear masks, then the same trick that you deployed at home, can you use it and bring together and tell, and all you as parents may ensure that the same can happen in school? Those teachers are parents.
And the same, look, because again, practicality of issues, the same way in which we said, look, you needed to maintain hygiene, wash your hands generally. Even for people who said we can't afford, we don't have running water. The same way you were able to have somehow, because let's look at, because a lot of times for you to be able to realize the capacity of somebody to do something, it only comes after the fact.
Yep.
You say, okay, in the middle of it, you said, I really can't do this, I can't afford it. But somehow you wore a mask, somehow you washed your hands. Now, when we look over the last 10 months, these things happened. Now, we're saying, take this same situation and we're going into school, right? I mean, I was one of the ones who said, don't open schools because we don't know how this thing is going to spread. Well, look, here we are, faced with another reality. Here we are. Okay, we need to keep hands washed on a regular basis.
Yep.
That water that was provided at home to be able to do this for 1, 2, 3 children. Now we are saying there are 500 children in one place. What can we do to come together as you? Because you're going to say, it's not my responsibility. I take the children to school, that's it. It is. It is now our collective responsibility, and say, again, the little bits that we can, because many drops that make an ocean, the little bits that we collect, can we put up a tank in this school and make sure that there's water running for children to wash their hands? Because that's what we're faced with right now. That is what we actually need to do. And it's got to be around the country. It cannot be in a certain place or a certain area. It's got to be around the country. Is that what they're lacking? Absolutely. then we need to do it. It absolutely needs to be done. And it needs to be that rallying call to come together and actually do something about this. Because we've heard many things. You're on your own. It's your decision to make. You have to do something or else it all falls apart. The government has done the best that they can do. Okay, who steps up next? Who steps up to the plate?
You know, there are certain realities that we've dealt with in the past and successfully so. Why I bring in the Harambee spirit is because there's a generation that even don't understand that many of the schools that we have and we call government schools did not begin as government schools. There were local efforts, community efforts that put up those schools. And the schools developed them, the community development, the community paid the teachers who worked there. And over time, the government recognized that there was a need for that school to receive a little boost. And then the government took over. There are schools that were actually put up by communities, like say the Aga Khan. What the government then did, they are called assisted schools. The government then gave them teachers whom the government paid. But the buildings, it was put up. There are many such institutions, and it shows how members of the community, the larger Kenyan community, have been able to do things that help the government effort. Now, the time we're in is dire. This one doesn't just require looking at an issue with, okay, it's a problem we have now. This is a problem that's going to actually be with us for some time.
It's going to stay here
for a while, yes.
Quite a while.
Even though we know that vaccines are not a vaccine, vaccines have been found. Vaccines are not cures. They provide prevention. But by the time the vaccine reaches Kenya, by the time it rolls out, the economic downfall that has been brought about by COVID is not going to disappear. Because vaccines have arrived, it will still be with us. Now, that recovery period requires a rethinking. Doing things in a way that you've never done before. Looking at life in the way you've never looked at it before. But it's the only way that you survive. If you're not amenable to change, then unfortunately you won't do very well.
You'll be swept away by it.
Yes. But the reality is that we have members of the population of this country who need that help.
So the question that we are asking is, what can we do? We collectively, not government, not what can we as Kenyans do to make sure that our children are able to learn in schools? What can we do? What is it that's required? Is it individual leadership and coming together and bringing people together? Is it Nyumba Kumis? Is it the school communities, teachers, parents, association coming together, having those meetings, discussing, doing Harambes, left, right and center? Can we then have those people who have been contributing to churches now being invited to come and contribute in schools because they have enough money that has been going around for donations? Can we rally people around that? Our children must learn, and we must be able to find ways of doing that. 0719-012-600. Please call, join the conversation. 22 minutes after 9. Let's see what's happening in terms of the weather, and then we'll be picking your calls. Also, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
The weather with Spice FM.
Sunny conditions throughout Nairobi today. 18 degrees currently, coming down to lows of 16. We're going to see lows of 13 in Nakuru, mostly sunny at 18. 17 degrees and mostly sunny in Nyeri at the moment, going to highs of 24 and lows of 10. We're seeing mostly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 11. It's cloudy in Kisumu in some parts this morning at 21. The low will be 19 and highs of 27. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions in Kakamega at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 14. 24 will be the low in Mombasa. It's mostly sunny at the moment, 26. highs of 31. It's also sunny in Malindi at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Kampala this morning still experiencing light rain through most parts at 22, highs of 26 and lows of 19. It's light rain in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Sunny conditions at 20 in Johannesburg. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16. Light rain in Lagos at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24. We're looking at sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Let's take a look down out into Beijing, where at minus 11, the sun is still out. We'll see highs of 18 and getting colder to lows of minus 17. Highs of 8, and lows of minus 17. Cloudy conditions in Paris at 3, highs of 4 and lows of 1. We're in London this morning at 4 degrees. It's raining now, combined with snow. It's now sleet, 5. The high and lows of 1, and cloudy conditions in New York. Highs of low and lows of 1.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What are you seeing now that schools have reopened? What are you seeing around the country? What are you hearing from your friends and relatives from across the country in terms of the situation and the conditions in the schools? And how are people stepping up to make sure that their children learn? Because even in private schools, we have seen there are challenges as well. Same thing. It's about the distance, about the size of the school, it's about whether do we have classrooms, it's about then we have a bus here and we have to now reduce the number of pupils that we're carrying in the bus. We don't have extra buses, so what happens? So if a particular route, there was a bus that was going and it was carrying 40 pupils.
Yeah.
That same route now is same bus, but it'll carry half.
Exactly.
So what happens?
You know, when we talk about unemployment that has arisen from COVID, it is assumed that it's only those who are in the lower ranks of income earning who have been affected. Not so. No one has been spared. And what it has done, if you are a parent and you have children of school-going age, you have to up your negotiation skills. Because you want children to go to school, you may not have the money to pay at once. You have to go and negotiate. Remember, we have institutions where parents actually took them to court. These are some of the high-end fees requiring paying schools. And you wouldn't do that if you were earning what you earned before and you're able to meet the obligations. It happens when you suddenly find you're not quite able to do what you want to do, but yet you'd like your children to continue enjoying the education in that place.
Yeah.
So you bring that discussion to a point where you figure maybe court would solve it. There are things that court may not necessarily solve. Because remember, this is a private institution, and you know very well why it is you wanted to take your child there. And also, there are usually some forms. They're called admission forms. You may sign them in haste because you want the child admitted and not read the details of that admission.
Yeah, there's that.
Yes, there's that little bit. And then you take the matter to court, and then all the administration does is produce that form and say, you signed, yes, you signed. Well, you committed yourself, didn't you?
Wow.
But negotiation can usually work around such things. Now, if the economy is suffering, it means every aspect of the economy is suffering. Even those schools have to run. How are they going to run? And these are private schools, so there's no government that they're waiting for that's going to dole out money and give them. The fees is what they rely on to be able to do what they do. That's it. It's not complicated. What I'd like to know is what the experiences of our parents are, the people who have children going to school.
Yeah.
In whatever category. What are you experiencing? What is it that you're seeing? What is it that you'd like to see? What do you think that you'd like to, what is it that you'd like to change?
Sure, and even for those parents who haven't taken their children back to school.
Or who are anticipating to take their children to school in the new year.
Yeah, they're hesitant for a number of reasons. They would be hesitant. And what are those reasons and how, basically what are we saying is then what help then is being sought? not taking the children back to school for fear of COVID. I remember we did look at some of the surveys that were done last year, and one of the reasons why parents would be hesitant, the biggest reason actually, was not even the money that we were thinking, based on that survey that is, but that 70% of parents who were interviewed said that they were worried about their children contracting COVID if they were to go back to school. And then the rest of these reasons were scattered through the remaining 30%. Now it may be different, because whether you're afraid or not, the government has given a directive that schools would have been open on the 4th of January and everybody's gone back to school. Now, if you're afraid of COVID, sorry, but that is not the reason why you keep your child at home. If you don't have fees to be able to send them back, that's something totally different. It would be interesting to hear also from parents who've kept their children back why.
Because of
they've done
fees,
that.
and the school has actually refused to admit the child.
Yeah.
0719-012-600. Yeah, those that have, because I've also heard from a number of parents, those that are hesitant to take their children back to school, just that fear of, okay, am I really sure I want to do this to my kids? Because they have done the best that they could over the last 10 months to make sure that the children are not really exposed to the virus. Reduce the number of visitors to your home, reduce the number of times that your kids are actually going to visit, and you're looking at them, put them in a very controlled environment. And now 10 months later, you're basically now saying, let's put them back to school.
Yeah.
And there is that, of course, that hesitation of, after all this work I've done, after just looking at them and knowing that they would like to play, they'd like to play with their friends, but I've told them for the last 10 months, no, there's COVID and we have to be very careful. And now suddenly I'm telling them, you go to school. So there are parents like that who are hesitant. I'd like to hear from them and their story. And then, like you're saying, those that have, for one reason or the other, are not able to take their children back to school, school fees, no available local public school, or the local public school, and you're looking at it and thinking, Jesus,
I'm not doing
with the kind of congestion that I see in that school, really, is my child going to get any value education from there? Or should I really start now thinking and coaching them from home as I think of homeschooling or any other alternative method? Are there those that have decided, I'm not going to take my children back to school, we are going to do homeschooling going forward? So what are the experiences as well? 0719-012-600. And those that come from those areas where the school is congested. I saw a piece in the news on Monday when children are going back to school. So a number of schools, those small private schools in and around Kibera, that were not able to reopen because of COVID. A, they had been demolished because they were somewhere in a road reserve or something. Two, they were not able to reopen because business. All those kids now are looking for new schools, and many parents went to Olympic Primary. Olympic Primary already has a student population of over 3,000. And the school administration said, look, we just don't have. Please just go to the next. Try to Ayani. Go. There are other schools around. Try and take your children there. Of course, those are also full. So what happens when you've gone to 1, 2, 3 schools in a neighborhood and you're talking about a 7-year-old child? You can't start thinking of how to take a 7-year-old child 5 kilometers from home.
You know, the circumstances that we are discussing are the circumstances that demand that we start thinking differently. When I say differently, this is what I mean. Huh? You know how it is when you have schools in the neighborhood, it's easy to take them for granted that they are what they are and there's no need to constantly work on how best you can forecast and plan for an emergency. If you live in an area that you know, for instance, is flood prone, okay? In the years that it has been, for it to be flood prone, it means it didn't flood once.
No,
it floods fairly often. Forget this backflow that we're dealing with now. What is it that over time you have considered as the measure or the means you need to take to ensure that should it happen, you are prepared? Because the absence of preparedness is what I think I always encounter as a media person whenever we have flooding or whenever we have some of these natural disasters. The same reaction, which means the preparedness was talked about, but it didn't actually occur.
Sink in.
Yes. It was, well, the measures that are required did not actually take place. And you never actually hear. Once in a while, you hear of some measures that were that took place. Once in a while, you do. But by and large, the thinking forward doesn't seem to be part of the planning process.
Is it because, okay, so you're thinking forward, is it because of a spirit or an attitude of procrastination? Or is it saying that I'm not going to look for, ways to get around this problem until it smacks me in the face? Because that's what it would appear, that, it's here, right? Even when they talked about January 4th come in November, parents thought, okay, maybe something else will be done. But then here it is, next week, here it is, January 4th, and you're here. And then we start to scramble for ideas, or whatever we hoped would have come through didn't come through.
The times we're in.
We still look back towards the government.
You see, the times we're in, why I'm referring to it is this, when you have a disaster such as the one we have, and it isn't going to end soon, you honestly cannot continue thinking the way you've thought all along and plan the way you've thought. It's actually not in your interest to. It is in your interest to forecast and to consider how you need to plan.
Okay, so that plan and that forecast should, what I hear you say, the plan and the forecast should come into play regardless of whether there is this huge emergency. So maybe that's where we should be geared to, that you should have this plan and go and action it, regardless of whether there's something major going on like COVID, whether there's something major going on like, failing economy, etc. You should be able to forecast based on what you've seen in the past, that look, if we don't do something about this, if we don't anticipate, if we don't plan, if we don't forecast, we're going to be in trouble.
Okay, let me give you an example of something that I encountered recently and why it is that I'm saying this is important. Someone I know offered to sell me a vehicle. And I informed them I don't need a vehicle. Right? Said, well, they owed money. They had been paying. The usual issues of the times, the job that they had no longer exists.
Right.
Not salary reduced, it doesn't
Job
exist.
doesn't exist.
So I asked the question, how long have you known? Were you given notice? Said I was given notice. And so...
Notice of termination?
Yes.
Okay.
Said, so if you're given termination, were you given some due? Said yes, but not what we had agreed on, but I was given some. So I asked, why at that time did you not adjust and consider selling this vehicle
At that time.
and probably buying a smaller one? Or why didn't you? He said, well, I thought I would get a job.
Yes. Yeah.
You always
I
live
thought
on
I would
hope,
get
man.
something. I thought I would get something, before the time.
Yes. Now,
Went
hope
too
is a
far.
good thing, but it has to also be based on reality.
It could also have been promised, CT. Somebody would have promised you that, okay,
I am
yeah,
not
we're
saying
going to
they wouldn't have. You see, the
Yeah.
sort of thinking that I'm advocating for here is this. If a job comes along, but you've already taken steps to ensure that certain eventualities don't land at your doorstep, the job will be welcome. But if it doesn't come along, you'll have also have made preparations for it. Okay? Meaning, you'll have sold the vehicle on terms that you can control. But now, if you give it time, 6 months down the line,
distress sets in.
Yes, and there'll be many other people who want to do exactly the same thing that you want to do. So you'll actually find a flooded market. So even the price that you thought you may have received, you will now not receive. It'll be a fire sale price. Meaning, the longer you take to make decisions about this, the harsher your circumstances will be, and you're going to be dealing the fire sale price. Something which may not really help you as you need. Now, what am I saying? We've talked about parents who understand this. Your children went to this school, you now can't afford it.
Yeah.
And that's where the Kibera Olympic story comes in, right? But there are many other schools that probably don't have the status of Olympic primary, but they exist
as well.
It may be wise for you to consider those other schools. Now, one may say they're also full. I'm saying yes, but remember, we've also been told stories of schools closing. So, how do you balance this? Schools exist, more parents who need to take their children to school, and more children who need to find schools also exist. Because there are parents who are going to be parents of school-going children for the first time this year.
So, you see, okay, schools do exist, yes, but consider the distance. One of the things that you always factor in is the distance between
Proximity to
home
home
and
and
school for your children. and especially the younger they are, the more critical that conversation comes in. So if you are looking at school and they're thinking, all right, so there's a school available, but it's not within this village. Think about it even in the rural areas. So you are taking your child to this local primary school, private school that is in the local shopping center, which is not very far from your home. That has shut down. The local public primary school that you went to yourself is so full they cannot admit it anymore. Next nearby public primary school is across the ridge.
Precisely.
What do you do now? Do you start moving your home so that you get closer to school?
No. Think of homeschooling. I'm simply saying every option that could possibly exist in trying to solve your problem must be explored. If all that can't happen, think of homeschooling and think of how it can be done.
I think it's also time to drop a few levels of prestige that we carry about. Because there's always that thinking that, well, this is the kind of education, this is the kind of school that my children must go to. But then guess what? Again, reality comes up and says, hello, here I am. This is the situation in which you're faced with. You don't have as much disposable income as you did before. The school where you would like to go, you can't afford that anymore. I think also we're in a season, in a time where owning up and facing the realities of things would be absolutely necessary. Can you take children to a cheaper school? Do it. Can you take children to a school whereby it would be close to home, but it would also still be able to be covered by your financial capability? Do it. Because pride doesn't feed. Pride doesn't take children to school. If anything, it trips you up and falls. So, that's also what we are looking at here. Many cases, we have people who are hanging onto a thread will come and tell you, I can't afford the school fees. But if you look beneath the surface, you can actually change your child's school.
You can afford the school fees, just not to this particular school. Those are tough decisions to be made. Let's take a break at 20 minutes to 10 o'clock, and we're still looking at your messages and your feedback on this. Checking your calls, 0719-012-600. So schools have reopened. There are all these challenges. What is it that you're experiencing? What's your experience so far with the reopening of schools? What is it that you're hearing from your friends and relatives across the country with the reopening of schools? And also, what is it that we can do to step up and ensure that children still go to school and we can help ourselves? This time it's not about helping the government, help ourselves. Let's look at the traffic and then continue the conversation. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, looking a little bit better in most parts today. Coming off Mombasa Road, not too bad. There are a couple of accidents that happened yesterday. We're still looking at the dregs of those this morning, but nothing too terrible right now. Traffic was very good most parts today, coming off Mombasa Road, coming out into the CBD and then going out onwards towards that. The eastern and southern bypasses flowing smoothly like a dream. Thika Road coming into the CBD as well was looking pretty good, and many said I didn't even need to take the train today because traffic was great. Hopefully this can continue well into the new year, but we're going to have to wait and see. Talk to us if anything goes wrong. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text zeros on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
That's what it is.
Cutting your coat.
And that is not an easy decision to be made. And also the timing of that decision. So within how long should you be making such decisions on, adjusting your lifestyle on this is what is happening? Hey, not very easy decisions as well. 0719-012-600. What's your experience with the reopening of schools? I see Patrick from Vihiga is on the line. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. How are you?
Happy New Year, Patrick. Good to hear you this year.
Happy New Year to you all.
Asante to you too.
Now, may I comment on this?
Yes.
First of all, the CS Education Ministry has done well because he goes around the country and he really meets the people and he sees the problems affecting schools and so on. But there is a lot in that than what meets the eye. I'm saying so because he seems to be working alone, and he must be tired by this time round. I support the sentiments of Mr. Muka about the spirit of Harambe, which is an aspect of African socialism that has been undermined by capitalism. Because in capitalism you work for yourself, and in African socialism you work for yourself and others
and everybody else.
Yep. So the current the challenges facing all schools across the country are one, social distancing, water, and of course overcrowding those schools that have received many new students. So according to me, this spirit of Harambe, which Mr. Muga has elaborately put it, should start from the top. You see, if the government wants to push something and it really appeals to the people, it will be done. So I feel all focus now should be on the spirit of Harambe, so that those Kenyans who are enrolled in every village should now come up and donate iron sheets, donate timber. Unajua siku zetu ilikuwa tu wazee wanasema nendeni kwa fulani kata miti mbili.
Yes.
Inakuja shuleni, and it worked very well. So if that one if that one descends from the top to the villages through our leaders, it can be done. And we shall solve this problem of social distancing, because many schools have learned.
That's true. It's actually the power of example. If we saw our national leadership saying, so let's do this, let me start by showing you how we can have this conversation. It would take root. Very true.
And the minister should be advised. You see, when he says we shall provide masks, and this day 3 masks have not reached schools, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Because yesterday I saw my member of parliament was donating masks to schools in a very silent move. Nobody knew what was happening, but now masks, school children have got masks. So the minister should act instead of talking too much when he's not doing when he's doing nothing really. You know, some promises when you keep on promising, it creates stomach ulcers, which is not a problem.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Patrick. I think Patrick has dropped off in Vihiga. 0719-012-600. What's your experience in what you're seeing in your area? And then how do we come together as a community to make sure that our children go to school? He says, if we, had that power of example from the leaders decided, all right, so this is it. Forget about talking whether the government cannot do, but just come together and say, in this particular community, we're having this meeting. Instead of Magoha just going and inspecting and sitting down on guests and standing up and telling head principals, do not send children back to school. Say, I'm coming to this particular school. I'd like to meet the PTA, all the parents of this school. So let's meet. So you guys, so these are the number of classes that you have. What can you do? I can donate here my own personal money, and this is it, 10,000 shillings. Can we do a quick harambe, and can you organize going forward doing a quick harambe? Can the local MCA, governor, whoever is around, community leaders come together and say, what do we do to increase the number of desks, increase the number of chairs, increase blackboards, hire extra teachers from the community, be able to supply water, have a mkokoteni that takes water into the school after every 5 hours.
I mean,
it's as simple as that.
Sure.
You're talking about there's no water in this school. So what are you going to do?
Those are things that need to happen. But if listen to the conversations that we had even this morning, and we say, okay, you on this side know that this is what needs to happen, and this is what you'd be accepting of. You on this other side realize, but then the coming together and the convergence of those ideas seems to be a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So like now, if we say there are schools around the country that need 1, 2, 3, there are students who need 1, 2, 3. That platform upon which now these matters can be discussed is what is wanting. And I think that's what the urge needs to be. That we cannot continue to bury our heads in the sand and hide under the weight of the problem without looking for the solution. The solutions we can see them. It's just like till tomorrow I say that this outside of class learning, there's no reason why, for example, you can't buy radios and distribute to parents. That is it is a practical thing. It can be done. Here we say, can 100 parents donate 100 shillings each for a tank to be erected in school X in your community, school X in another community? Can you come together, that same money and masks be bought? Yes, it can be. But the platform upon which these conversations need to be set also needs to be created. People need to come out of their shell, whereby I'm going to worry that Eric is going to see me as needy if I come out and say that I'm having this particular problem. How will he see me in the future? We have to now drop those lines and say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because people are going to sink deeper and deeper into these problems if we don't come out and say that this is actually what the issue is.
I think one of the things I see where the problem of being able to bring those sides together lies in that problem that City keeps telling us, the broken trust between the citizens and their government, and the government not wanting to admit the truth of a situation at any particular point. If a political leader were to come and say, all right, so let's do a Harambee, they're basically admitting to something. Are they willing and ready to do that? To admit to the fact that this is not going to come from Nairobi, it will need to come from us. And then, wondering whether the questions are going to be asked, but why can't Nairobi do this? But not also realizing that people will not necessarily ask, why can Nairobi do this? They'll be like, okay, so our leader came and told us, let's do this, let's rallied us together, and we did it. When we see pictures, for example, of Rarieda MP, what's his name again? Senior Council, Otiende Amolo, right? Working with the community to put up houses for vulnerable people. And yes, people will complain, oh, those are mud houses, why couldn't he build?
It's a house.
It's a house.
Where there was nothing before.
And the community actually came together, and it's you guys who are complaining. The people in that village, when he said, can we meet on that day and put up a house, they came. They didn't ask him, oh, but why can't you do this with CDF? Oh, why can't you? No, they listened. They just needed that leadership. And that is what is required. Imagine if our leaders just did that. Just take up that leadership.
In every area in which you represent, right?
You're a church leader, you are a community leader, you're a Nyumbakumi leader, you are the local MCA, you're the local MP. Just call your school community together, your community, and tell them, guys, we have 1,000 children in this school and we need them to learn. What do we do to make sure that they learn? People will not say, but munatuambia kwa nini na wewe, they will actually follow.
Yes, and even if you no longer have children of school-going age, you see...
It doesn't matter.
No, this is something that involves all of you. Not a few people who you think are able or more able than others, everybody. The truth of the matter is a solution that is not only workable but sustainable will be found. You see, as Eric put it, for the longest time, these are things that we lay at the doorstep of the government. And you start back and bitch about what the government should do and what the government has not done. This isn't that time. No, this isn't that time. And it won't be for quite some time. So, do we want children to learn? Okay. Do we want to ensure that those who are placed to ensure that they have their learning are well looked after?
Yep.
Aha.
Can we ensure their safety of everybody, the learners and the teachers? Yes. What can we do to ensure their safety? So I'm seeing a comment here by Mutuma Marimba. What is Mutuma saying?
Mutuma says, these kids are COVID carriers and they will come home with new strains daily. Nasisi Wazazi will be the victims. I think he's trying to say, immunize what?
Immunity,
ya watoto iko juu. Plus God takes care of them. Those are his thoughts.
Okay. COVID carriers, they're likely to come home with with COVID.
Yes.
All those are risks.
That risk has been there.
Yes.
All along. School accentuates it because they're all in one place, classrooms, but even in the areas they live in, they've been playing with other children.
Yep.
So you can say it's to a lesser degree, but that bridge we've crossed, they're in school.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that flew up.
They're in
into
school.
consideration.
Okay,
It
now
didn't
that
really-
they're in school,
what do we do?
They're in school. And all those things which are being said are true.
Yep.
They're possibilities. Yes. What do we do with those possibilities also?
Yeah. Because you can imagine, actually, if you came together and you were able to help the teachers decide, so break time is when these children will require more supervision in how they're playing. How can the community help the teachers in the supervising of these children as they play?
And that's the practical
Can people
thing.
actually volunteer and come to school at break time to just help the teachers in the supervision of the children to ensure that they are observing physical distancing?
Light bulb just went over my head because usually when we're looking at these problems, we think that the solution is monetary and monetary only.
Yeah.
But it's not. There are
Time.
other. Time is a resource that can be used.
And
in
effort
this.
that someone puts into it.
Yep.
Yes.
Coming together and even thinking about the solution and then offering. Yes, money does play a role here and it can
does.
help. It would help dramatically so. But there are other things that can be done.
Every community has people. Every community has old people. Every community has people who have skills that they stopped using because they reach what we call retirement age.
Yes.
They're there.
They're there.
They're alive, they're well, and they function.
And we have a fairly well-educated, youthful population in the villages, okay?
Yes.
These people are there. They finished college. They finished Form 4. They are not working. They are not gainfully employed. Can those people be volunteers in the schools? What can you do? How can you utilize them?
Actually, COVID provides an ample opportunity for people who, A, are seeking leadership, B, are already in leadership, to show how they can mobilize their communities in this time of need to ensure that their communities overcome this problem. Because the resources actually exist.
They do exist. The resources are right there.
Yes.
We have them. There's no water in the school, but there's water. There's a river somewhere where all of us fetch
what do we
water
do?
from. And all of us, when we get this water, there are Mkokoteni people around who bring the water to us. So can this Mkokoteni guy be taking water to the school? All we do is contribute money to buy a tank.
Exactly.
Or somebody just donates their tank. I have this plastic tank. It is 50 liters. Somebody else has another one, 50 liters. Can we take them to the school for the next 3 months as we seek what else we can do?
The spirit
Can
of
we make sure that there is water in the school? Yes, we can. Is it expensive? Absolutely not. Can we make sure that there is physical distancing in school? Yes, we can. Is it expensive? To some extent, but no, it is doable. Can we make sure that we have extra support for the teaching staff and the workers in the school? Yes, we can. Can we feed these children? We can.
It can be done. And I think that the spirit of that one spirit of coming together, realizing the possibility that lies therein when you actually do come together is very important. I don't think it's something that we should drop the ball on. Because we can talk, it sounds like we're writing a fairy tale here and saying,
No, it isn't a fairy
yeah,
tale.
like it is a reality that these things can actually be done. Communities are made up of people. Society is made up of people.
Yep.
People reside in a certain area where there is a need. There is something that can be done. There's a rallying call that can be put out because we know that there's a problem. It comes to the surface every day. We look at it every day. The headlines, that's what it talks. Chaos. Are they going to be able to do it? Schools have been submerged. Those who've not been able to return to school these are the problems. They're real, they're right here. The solutions are just as real.
Why do you think the term human resource took shape and became central to understanding our functions, our being, and our interaction? Because we are a resource.
Yep.
And probably the most single useful resource that mankind has themselves. Now, if you marshal those resources in the right direction, then you will have results pointing again in the right direction.
Right. A lot can be done with that. A lot can be done. As we conclude today's proverb,
you know who you love, but, however, you can't know who loves you. By the way, just in case you're wondering where it's from, Nigeria.
Which part of Nigeria?
It's Nigeria.
The Nigerian part of Nigeria.
Yes. I mean, is there any other part?
All right, so why this proverb today and what does it tell us?
Well, it is, if you take the view that proverbs don't have a singular function, but rather they have a multiplicity of functions to teach, to warn, to entertain, to prevent strategy. Whatever the reasons are, there are times Proverbs state what seems to be the obvious, but it's for that very reason that sometimes we take the obvious for granted. And in taking it for granted, when that issue or the reality around it arrives at you, it hits you. Instead of it coming gently and slowly and in a way that's accommodating, it probably just kicks you in the butt or slaps you in the face.
Sometimes.
Simply because it's something that you ought to know and you even assume you do, but you have taken it for granted. For instance, we assume that parents will always love us irrespective of what we do, because after all, they are our parents. And if you take it for granted, it means you will not consider reciprocity.
Yep.
And reciprocity is key to love being what it is.
Yep.
Because it is the water, it is the nutrition in the soil that makes it grow. Reciprocity.
Does it?
Yes.
That makes love grow. I should write that down.
Yeah. Well, write it down.
I'm writing it down.
Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning. Nduoko, C.T. Muga, and Eric Latif. You have uninterrupted music coming in now until 3 o'clock, and then you will have Spice Drive going home, and then you'll have in the evening as you chill out at home, the adults will be in the room. See you again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.